Cambridgeshire. He remains in a life-threatening condition in hospital, the only person who's still critical. One man's being held on suspicion of attempted murder. Passenger Amira Stansky describes the scenes of panic.
It was horrific because we had no idea where he was, and the conductor that tried to stop him got stopped as well. Obviously, we felt that we were not safe because we were trying to get the train to stop and get the train to stop.
LNE expects to run a normal service today. The sole survivor of a plane crash that killed 241 people says it's a miracle he's still alive. The death of his brother's taken all of his happiness. The Air India jet came down on Ahmedabad in June. Vishwash Kumar Ramesh struggles to says he has constant flashbacks and is still in pain. Experts warn medical emergencies are being missed in baby scans at some high street clinics. They've had reports of babies being misdiagnosed and want the job title sonographer to only be used by those with the right qualifications. A 9-month-old baby has died in a dog attack in Roberts in southeast Wales. An animal has been seized. In sport, Erling Haaland scored his 13th goal of the Premier League season, guiding Manchester City to a 3-1 win over Bournemouth. West Ham beat Newcastle by the same scoreline, and in the Scottish League Cup semi-final, Celtic needed extra time to get past Rangers 3-1. And a €150 bottle of beer is going to be opened, so a Scottish brewer can try to recreate a modern version of it. It was made from Celtic Oxford Edition in 1875. That's the latest. I'm Pat Small.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hey, very, very good morning to you. Welcome to Morning Glory. It is Monday. It's JK at the controls until 10 o'clock, you lucky people. Hope you had a good weekend. So much in the news, obviously dominated by that horrific story about the, the devil on the 1825 headline in The Sun today. Fiend knifing 11 passengers in 15 minutes, just from nowhere. And I was saying to the guys, I actually know this train line well. My best friend lives in Newcastle, my daughter's at university in York, and I go up and down on this LNR train, and you just think about people just sitting there minding their own business. The fear factor must be extraordinary. It's something I want to talk about, and I'm delighted, I have to say. Day one, the best paper reviewer for a Monday. Is that good, yeah? Poppy Coburn, good morning.
Good morning.
We're all right, aren't we, for an early morning start?
I think so. I feel bright and early. You know?
Nice, good. Let's start with this horrific story. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to say. There's a couple of things that I want to say, but this guy gets on the train, stabs 11 people willy-nilly, eventually is tasered by the cops as he yells, "Kill me." One of them, the bravest people, was in fact a worker for LNER who is fighting for his life. I just want to play a clip to everybody. This is Ollie Foster, who was a passenger on this train. This is what he saw. Have a listen.
I was in Coach H. I was literally just listening to Audible on my phone. And then I had a guy suddenly run past going, "Run, run." There's a guy stabbing literally everyone, everything. There was a few of us kind of looking at each other like thinking it was a joke, like it's Halloween, I'd be pranking. But then you could kind of see in their faces they were being serious. I kind of got my stuff and I was running, and everyone was really pushing behind us, really panicking. And at this point I was kind of asking questions like, what's happening, like who is it? And they were like, a guy's just stabbing everyone back there. Put my hand on this chair, like just trying to push myself forward. And then I look at my hand and it's covered in blood. And then I look at the chair and there's blood all over the chair. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is pretty serious. So some of the guys that had ran through to kind of alert us to run, they were the ones who had also been stabbed. So we're running over and getting to the edge of the carriage, still trying to work out who is it, what's their intentions, what's their motives.
Terrifying.
It's like something out of a horror movie.
It is.
Yeah, I just think, you say it's a normal train route. You're completely right. Like, sometimes with these attacks, you just place yourself there. You can't help it. Like, that's so normal, just getting a train, on the weekend, just travelling down to London. How many people do that on a regular basis every week?
We were talking last night about it, my wife and I. You end up thinking, what is safe? So last night, just very personal story, my son, who's at golf college, goes back to London. He wants to go. He goes on the 6 o'clock train, right? And he texts me at 7 o'clock, and a drunk guy is going up and down the platform. It's a dark autumn night. Go, did you play golf? And he's on his own in the train. And I said, listen, if you're terrified, get off. Yeah. On the basis of what happened the night before. Fear's the thing, isn't it? Real fear.
It's completely the fear. I think I've said to you before, when I've just travelled on the tube, you get this feeling when someone gets on and you immediately know something's wrong. Yeah. You can immediately tell. It's like the hairs in the back of your neck go up. And the thing I find so frightening about this is that you know that no one's going to help you. People can't help you. You're literally stuck on
Absolutely.
This train. Until those doors open, you are completely on your own.
I read something about the driver. The driver continued to the next station, and people initially criticised him and went, hold on a second, why did you not stop? And his answer, which is actually correct, is if I stopped in the middle of nowhere, the police couldn't have got there. Again, respect to the services, the emergency services. But actually, we've got this is another clip I'd like to play. Superintendent John Lovelace, he's from the British Transport Police. How about listen to this, my friends?
10 people were taken to hospital by ambulance, and another person self-presented later that evening. While 9 were initially believed to have life-threatening injuries, following assessment and treatment, 4, thankful to say, being discharged. However, 2 patients remain in a life-threatening condition. British Transport Police declared a major incident yesterday, and counter-terrorism policing were initially supporting our investigation. However, at this stage, there is nothing to suggest that this is a terrorist incident.
Now, the thing about these sorts of stories is, when you do a job like this, you have to try and talk about other things. And there were 2 things that I took from this story over the weekend. And if you are listening this morning, let's get your theories. Let's get your thoughts on this. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. We'd love to hear from you. How has this affected you? Have you got a story you can relate to that with? Also, as ever, voice notes, calls 0344 499 1000. Do that now. For me, 2 things. The first was, why isn't it terrorism?
Yeah.
How is it? What's the difference? Somebody running amok on a train with a knife, potentially killing tens of people. Why is that not terrorism? But also equally, I'd love your take on this, people. Why did the government feel it necessary to say the 2 suspects which they announced initially were a 32-year-old black man and a 35-year-old man of Caribbean descent? I think I know why. I think it's because most people, I'm afraid, would have assumed that it might have been a terrorist attack, an Islamic terrorist attack on the basis of everything, and the government were doing what was best to quell. Thoughts on that?
I completely agree with you. I mean, this is an attack, unfortunately, that is not unrecognised by people in Europe, right? These mass stabbing attacks, particularly when it seemed like it was 2 people, that makes in your mind go, this must have been pre-planned. 2 people don't snap at the same time. Well, now we know it's 1 person. With some of those eyewitness reports coming out, it does seem to suggest perhaps there's a mental illness angle. But as you say, I mean, people are being terrorised. Surely if the aim of these attacks, even if, the person isn't in their right mind, is you now can't get on a train anymore, sit there with your headphones or reading a newspaper and just drift off. You're going to be looking over your shoulder. I don't know about you, but there's hardly any public places now that I'm not doing that. When I'm not, slightly on edge, when I walk down the street, when I'm going into a shop, when I'm travelling on a train, when I'm travelling on the tube. And it's stuff like this that makes people really angry when the government says there's no evidence it's a terror attack. Because the definition of terrorism, I understand, is a legal definition, it's a working definition, fine. But people feel terrorised.
Completely.
They feel that there are people who are not in their right minds, who are loose cannons, walking around. They see them every day. I don't know about you, but I see these people every day. You look at them and behind their eyes there's nothing there. And you're like, why are you walking around the street?
Which I think opens up a whole debate about social care and the system in this country. But I just... The other thing which perhaps sounds stupid to ask you, right, is because you know, I'm 60, right? So nowadays social media is really an outlet that most people seem to get their news from, and stuff is so much quicker than it ever was in the past. But what happened on that train, did that happen 20 years ago? Was that fueled by social media? Is it fueled because of what people see? Is it copycat? Why do we have more of this now than before?
Yeah, well, look,
Or did we not just hear about it before? I don't know.
I think this is new. Yeah, I was talking to my dad about this because we were both complaining.
A bit like this show, yes, that's what I was just about to say, isn't it?
Well, when people say, like, you know, crime is lower than it's ever been, it's so safe now in the UK, everyone's like... crimes like this, where people are going on frenzies, you know, just random people snapping at once and going around with a massive machete and stabbing people, that is not normal. Now, maybe robbery is down, fine. Shoplifting's certainly up. These crimes are certainly up. These stranger attacks are certainly up. And those are the things that keep people up at night, because that is random. How do you change your behaviour? As John Healey said, be vigilant. How do you be vigilant on a train? You just can't travel on a train
it really
anymore.
brought it home with me with Henry last night. I was at home thinking, geez, what am I supposed to do? I'll drive to Southampton or whatever. 16 and a half, never had a problem, just sat there. What if that guy had been a nutter? Richard's right. He says it's clearly terror-related, Jez. I mean, what else do you call a man waving a knife and attacking people willy-nilly? That's terror. That is terror, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's also, what does terrorism do? It makes you afraid to engage in normal patterns of life. And this is exactly what these attacks do. It basically tells you the public space isn't for you.
What will also happen, I mean, the front page of the Mail, the devil's not going to win. What knifeman told terrified passengers as he stabbed 11 in train rampage. The vicious attacker told one passenger the devil is not going to win. So all the papers will try and work out who the devil is. And then we'll hear in the coming days that this guy, presumably, sorry to appear cynical, peeps, was actually known to whatever, the mental health authorities somewhere or the counter-terrorism group. Morning, Jez. This is Mark. If it's not terror, what is it? A racist attack? Will it be mental health? That newfound excuse people use. This was clearly planned, a lone wolf style attack. I'm on a train now. This is interesting. Mark's in Croydon on a train right now. He says, I'm sitting here thinking, what if that happened now? And I'm listening to you.
Yeah, well, exactly. You know, this reminds me of Valdo Calacane. The Nottingham attacks, right? Same thing. A man who was known to authorities, well in advance, multiple opportunities to stop this from going. Again, we don't know who's, you know, well, we do know who's potentially done it, or we've got a suspect in custody. We don't know the motive for it, but it's the same old story every time. So of course you're going to start extrapolating what you can get from this. Known to authorities, multiple attempts for the people to stop them, whether it be the police or the NHS, and yet the attack is allowed to carry out, people have their lives ruined.
Bill in Romsey, morning JK and Poppy. After the knife attack on the train, I think the UK is broken. I think this is another example. My question, will Starmer and Mayor can't do anything about it? And finally, if you were on that train now, would you be in the terror of your life? Absolutely, of course you would. You'd be sitting there thinking, geez, and I don't know. I mean, I watched Shabana Mahmood. It wasn't the most inspiring response, was it? I want my government to come out. Fighting's the wrong word, but come out and say, we're going to make you safe. And by the way, I don't lay this at the Labour Party. I lay this entirely at the door, initially, of Theresa May. It's an absolute disgrace. So what did Shabana Mahmood say? I wish my eyes would work. I'm deeply saddened to hear about the stabbings in Huntingdon. My thoughts go out to all of those affected. 2 suspects have been immediately arrested. I am receiving regular updates. I urge people to avoid comment and speculation. No, I don't want that. I want her to say, I'm completely with you. I want her out of wherever she is. I want her in Huntingdon at midnight with sirens and lights saying, I am here and I'm going to protect you because I am the Home Secretary. Is that outrageous?
So normalised. This used to be something that was on a front page of news for a month. I can promise you by the end of the week people are completely forgotten about it because this stuff is now normalised. We just accept it as another normal part of life. This is not normal.
You know, I used to look at America and I used to think, you know, those terrible shootings in schools and we'd have those debates on the shows about knife crime and weapons in America and how fundamentally it was wrong. You're absolutely right. Those terror, Sadiq, all those sorts of things in America, they go for a week and a month and then it happens again. It's starting to be like that in the United Kingdom. It's undoubtedly. Good morning to Jules in London. Morning, JK and Poppy. There's a certain culture in our country that think carrying and using a knife is OK. 61% of knife crime is in London. Let's take that point. This was in Huntingdon. We accept it was probably a lone wolf attacker. But think about Khan and London. He talks about, you know, equality and diversity and educating this and we mustn't have that and we must charge for this and all that. And yet knife crime is the absolute bane of the lives of so many people in London. And I still don't understand why your mayor wouldn't go, do you know what? I'm going to make sure that we stop and search anybody and everybody and not apologise for it, and there's going to be a statutory penalty if you get caught with a knife, and you're going to go to prison and you're going to serve the time.
But this is the problem. Everyone else has to pay for the consequences of this stuff. So I can promise you they're going to bring in some stupid law that means you have to get your bag searched at a train station like you do in an airport. It won't stop the people that actually carry knives because they won't be stopped and searched. They'll push past the barrier, as they always do, and they'll continue to carry out these attacks. But your life and my life will get worse. And this is the way that the authorities always respond to crimes like this. This is what people like Sadiq Khan want to do. They'll put up posters on the tube saying don't stare, don't harass people, but they won't actually have anyone in the British Transport Police doing anything about it.
Let's get 6:15 in the morning. Let's just take that, because you are I've stood there. I've stood there on the tube in London, and I don't go on it very often, right? And it will say, you know, treat people fairly, and well done to David, who's got whatever wrong with David, but he's our employee of the month because he came to work for 3 days. And once somebody said to him, you're a nasty man and your job's not very exciting. And he got upset, but he's fought back from anxiety. But whilst that's going on, people are being knifed in the streets. The quality of the undergrounds, the trains, the graffiti, the begging.
It's like New York in the 70s.
It is. It's so... Actually, this is interesting. Nikki is in Huntingdon. Good morning, Jez and Poppy. Regarding the train stabbing, I'm an ex-RUC officer from Belfast. I moved to England in 1990 because I was sick of terrorism and I didn't want to raise my kids in that atmosphere. Here I am, 30-plus years later, with the same feelings and terrified for my children and granddaughter. I feel so helpless this morning.
It's just disgusting. I just don't think that we should have to live like this.
No.
I hate that this is being normalised.
What's the answer? What's the answer?
Well, the answer is to actually, like, arrest people, put them in jail for a long time.
I once interviewed Sadiq Khan, and I took, weirdly, not on this station, and I went for him about knife crime, and he said to me, but it's racist, stop and search. And I pointed out that a majority of knives that are carried in London are carried by young black men. That's not a fact, and stabbings as well. No, it's racist. I said, but whether a person is white, Caucasian, black, I'm not bothered about that. Surely you should be saying, if you're carrying a knife, whether or not you're carrying it because you're fearing that your gang isn't as whatever. If you eradicate that by saying, I don't care who you are or where you come from, the punishment is going to be so great, you're going to think twice. Doesn't do that, though.
This never comes out of the blue. It's always the fact that the authorities have dealt with these people multiple times, multiple occasions. They would have had interactions with police, with social workers, with the NHS. They may have been detained under a Mental Health Act. If these people, I mean, this is a Labour government thing, by the way, they want to bring down detentions for extreme mental health conditions because they think there's racial disparities in them and they think it's racist.
Sorry, can we just... Sorry.
Seriously.
Calm, Jez. Say that again?
So they actually want to bring down the number of people who have been detained under the Mental Health Act because there are racial disparities and they think it means that it's racist. Because
how can it be racist if you're mad?
Well, I mean, exactly. Exactly.
So if Mark, who is Caucasian through there, has a fit and we section him, which could happen, that's racist, is it?
No, I mean, it would be only racist if it was someone who was of a definite ethnicity.
But we'll have a sweeping generalisation about the whole thing.
Of course.
I live in a parallel universe. Do you not think that increasingly about this country?
No, I mean, it's dangerous. This will actually lead to not only the people themselves who are having mental health episodes, maybe harming themselves, but innocent bystanders. If someone does have a psychotic episode, what, are we just going to have to pay the consequences of that?
But you wouldn't get involved, would you, in this country? I used to laugh at rubbernecking. I used to get really angry when I'd be driving down the motorway or walking past something and people would just stare and do nothing. But if you do something nowadays in the United Kingdom, you're either likely to be stabbed
or sent to jail.
Or prosecuted for daring to stick up for what's right. Rachel says, Jez, Pops, I use trains regularly, but since the weekend, and I know this might sound silly, but I just don't feel like I want to use public transport at the moment. I don't feel safe. Chris is in Chester. Morning, pal. He says, yet again, another terrorist attack and the usual response, thoughts and prayers, and they will not divide us, and then nothing bloody changes. The definition of madness is repeating the same thing and expecting different results. It's absolutely true, isn't it? Yeah. Steve's in Cambridge. Jez, definitely a sad story for our news this week, and this is terrorism without a doubt. Many innocent people were terrorised. What else can it be? But on the bright side, says Steve in Cambridge, Poppy's on the show and she'd brighten my morning any morning. He needs to get out more. Hello to Chris. This is typical of the police and the government. This was a terrorist attack. Innocent people have had their lives ruined because of some sick ideology. Britain was never like this 20 years ago. Was it sick ideology? Just somebody who's mad? I don't know. That's the other thing, by the way. Thinking about this coming in this morning. Yeah, that's a good point. Wesley says, well, isn't this domestic terrorism? I think we're too scared to call it out.
Yeah.
I think he's mad. Well, he is mad, isn't he? And he should be sectioned. There just shouldn't be excuses. That's not normal behaviour.
Yeah.
You know, those judges that go, well, he had a bad upbringing. I don't care. He had a machete.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be at liberty.
I know plenty of people that had a tough upbringing. They don't walk around with a massive zombie knife.
Yes.
What a ridiculous way to view a society. If people commit crimes, if people are completely out of control and could commit a crime like that, they should be detained. Can
we just shout out sounds the wrong thing. There was a railman, am I allowed to say railman? A rail person. Hero railman who's literally saved tens of lives by putting himself in the way, and he's fighting for his life. And do you know what? In this sea of madness that we call this country right now, there are an enormous number of people who do a really good job and get very little credit, and that guy's lying in a hospital bed fighting for his life.
Why should frontline workers have to be the people that pay the brunt for this stuff, you know? What? Well, seriously, they have to walk around in stab-proof vests now because the government can't get a handle on these people?
Nick in Loughborough, contentious, but you might agree with it. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. I made the point earlier. Why did the government feel the need to release the ethnicity of the attacker? He says, until the cultural persuasion of the knifeman is known, not his nationality, Jez, we will assume, many will, that we're being gaslit by government, terrified of upsetting a growing religious minority.
Yes. Well, the trust is just gone. That's why they have to do it. I mean, the local MP, Benabi Shakti, actually said, look, I don't necessarily feel 100% comfortable with it, but what's the alternative? Because there's no trust anymore. There's no trust. People feel like it's going to get covered up. We're going to have to end up being like the US, where you immediately release a profile of the suspect. I don't see any alternative, frankly, because I don't trust the government.
I can never remember his name. The South. What was the Southport?
Southport Axel Rudabakana.
Rudabakana. I mean, he was from Cardiff, wasn't he?
He was the last crime.
And I remember distinctly at the time thinking to myself that the government, and this isn't conspiratorial, they knew he wasn't a Muslim extremist, and they knew that was being fueled on social media, and yet they didn't come out as they did yesterday, whether that's gaslighting or not, and it built and it built and it built and it built. There were riots, and then Starmer could send his militia onto the streets, get them arrested, detained and jailed within 24 hours, despite the fact we didn't have any of that. And he was able to then say everybody was right wing. Maybe I'm being fair to the government or unfair. Are they doing that to give us information? But you don't feel like you're getting the whole lot. You're absolutely right. You need a photo, don't you? Because people, what he just said in Loughborough, people will think, well,
it's also the problem is you can't then have a legitimate conversation about these problems in our country anymore. No. You can't. If you want to make multiculturalism work, you have to be able to criticise aspects of certain cultures, particularly if certain cultures have a high propensity for terrorism or something. It's completely reasonable and rational to do that. If we were a grown-up country, we'd be able to do that and do it in a way that's sensible and doesn't cross the line. But no one feels that you can do that anymore. There's no trust in the government whatsoever.
And you do feel you can't say stuff. So much response. James in Plymouth. Morning, JK and Pop. I feel this is the result of a depleted police force, not a service, and not there being no deterrent, as per politicians all talk and no trousers. Go back to what I said about Theresa May. Yeah. You know, policemen and women on the streets, on trains, on train platforms, gaining intel. Intel leads to, as Blexley will always say to me, will lead to arrest. This doesn't lead to arrest. Sean in Gloucester, before we go to break, another tragic attack. How many more will we have to suffer because the powers that be actually don't do anything? Sadly, Stalin and his cronies are too weak and stupid to admit their ideology has created this environment where lawlessness abounds. I fear a massive backlash is on the way. Not that I would advocate it. Sean in Gloucester.
Completely agree with you. You can feel it. People are so angry in the way they have been for a very, very long time because all of this stuff is preventable. All of this stuff is preventable. It's the reasonable outcome of an ideology that has allowed this to happen. Really interesting. 6:23. Not that you give a damn. If you are waking up, you've made it Talk, the home of free speech and common sense, but most of all, the chance for you to get involved. Horrific story leading today, of course. The devil on the 6th, the 1825. 11 passengers knifed by this vigilante, it seems, as we know, attacker yesterday in Huntingdon. Police have got one man. They describe him as a 32-year-old black man in custody. Lots and lots of you responding. Is this the norm? How do you prevent it? Was it not a terrorist attack, surely? And why did the government feel it necessary to release the ethnicity of the attacker? Is that because we'd all jumped to, what, some assumption? Love to hear what you think this morning. 0344 499 1000. You were Morning Glory on Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning. Welcome back. 6:28. You're with Morning Glory. We're live across the UK on the home of free speech and common sense. JK and Poppy Coburn. What's the title again? Deputy Content Editor.
Acting Deputy Comment Editor, and I could barely get that out of my mouth, so that's difficult enough.
There we go. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222, talking about this horrific, we call it terrorist attack, I think, the train stab horror, Huntingdon, Saturday night. 11 people stabbed in 15 minutes by this lone attacker. We're then told by the government that they have him in custody. They released his ethnicity, said he was a 32-year-old black man. Our question this morning, apart from real sympathy with the people, of course, who are victims, is why did the government feel the need to do that? We were talking before the break about, are they gaslighting us? And why is it not an act of terrorism? Let's go to Gloucester. David, you're on Morning Glory. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, Poppy. How are we all?
Yeah, we're good. What do you want to say?
That's good. Well, I feel very sorry for the victims, obviously, but I was actually, theorising. If this character is known to the authorities in any way whatsoever, whether he's been let out of prison or, whatever, Starmer, the Home Secretary, must be in prison, must be charged with conspiracy. Because that is what it is. It's a conspiracy to destroy the lives of this country.
It's really interesting what I said. You might have heard me say earlier about the Southport situation and Starmer and the government they withheld information from us. This sort of feels, doesn't it, Pops, as if they're giving a bit out, but we're not sure it's everything. But are they in a no-win situation? Am I being too hard to them? What's the right answer?
The stuff that irritates me is they say, don't speculate, please don't speculate, and then they leave an information vacuum out there for 14 hours. How the hell are you not going to speculate when, you've just had a dozen people be stabbed on a train? This is like a horror movie situation. Of course you're immediately going to go, hang on, there's been 2 suspects, oh, well, now there's one.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, we're getting a mixed profile on who it actually is. We don't necessarily know what the motivation is. We haven't got a name. In America, you get a name and a mugshot immediately. Of course people are going to start to think, what the hell is going on in their country? It's terrifying.
It's not the norm, though, is it, David? But sadly, it's becoming, I'm not saying it's becoming the norm, but as Poppy said earlier, you look at this and you go, within a week, people will have forgotten about this. 11 people could have died. This lone wolf is out there. It's scary, isn't it?
It's absolutely terrifying. And my wife's sister lives over that part of the world. And she said, oh, my gosh, that's quite near where her sister lives. And I said, yeah, but that could have happened anywhere. That could have happened in Gloucester, Scotland, you name it, it could have happened.
Yeah.
And it's just, but this is what we've become. We're absolutely terrified in this country. You're wandering around thinking, well, I'm in rural Gloucestershire, but even here you're thinking, we're not safe anymore.
I think that's. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. And I think if you create a cocktail of we don't feel safe, we don't feel like we're treated fairly, we don't really understand why we've lived our lives the way we have, and we're being put right at the back of the queue. That is a lethal cocktail. Thank you, David in Gloucester. This is interesting. Jenna Lloyd Ball, Jez. 4 members of my family travel on NLER to London every day for work, and my 19-year-old nephew was on the train immediately behind the one involved. He was among the passengers who asked to leave the train at Peterborough that night. We spent the rest of the weekend discussing how we could protect ourselves if we were ever caught up in a situation like that. It's left us all feeling very anxious about travelling.
You know, the stuff that makes me so angry, though, is how can you protect a child at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class? How can you protect yourself when you're out walking your dog? How can you protect yourself when you're commuting on a train? These are all normal things that people will go about on their daily lives.
Yeah.
There is nothing that you can do. You certainly can't arm yourself for your protection because obviously it's illegal. I mean, it's a luck of the draw. That's why it's so petrifying.
And I think for me, and we'll obviously come back to this story in the morning and would love to take your comments on this and your thoughts. We don't want to, there's other stuff in the news, but it's one of those moments where people will say, well, how'd you do it? Well, you get more policemen and women on the streets. When you give a sentence to an attacker, they have to serve that bloody sentence.
Yeah.
Let's not look for excuses for the attacker. Let's concentrate on the victims. But this ideology that you're talking about, and look at Tony says, why the hell won't the police release the suspect's name and photograph?
Yes.
This text, Crystal, good morning, Jez. The unfortunate part of this is after violence like this occurs, an important conversation starts, but sadly ends due to defence of people's rights being taken away. It's absolutely right.
Well, what about
he hasn't got any rights. He's a scumbag. He should be in jail.
Hey, what about the right not to get stabbed on a train?
Just imagine how that sounds. This is why America thinks our country's on its backside. What about the effect? I keep going back to this about that, and I apologise to you all because you've heard this many times. Because I live down the way, on the Bournemouth beach, when that illegal migrant stuck his hands down the front and back of this 17-year-old's trousers, and the judge said, and I quote a year later, court, well, it's a slight aberration of a character and he's had a bad upbringing. What? Sorry. What does that say to anybody who's had a bad upbringing, who doesn't think it's OK to sexually attack somebody or stab somebody on a train or nick something that people have worked hard for?
Well, we've changed our notion of justice. Like, we have a completely wrong notion. I think the average person on the street has a very clear black and white morality. They know this is right, they know this is wrong. But I think the way that our judicial systems are set up is not based on that. Yeah. It's based on how do I give a million chances to someone who doesn't deserve them.
Completely right.
Because the problem is when you give these people chance after chance after chance to improve themselves, and they don't, what happens? You, the average member of the public, are the person who will be victimised as a result.
Paul's in Wiltshire. He says, if it were not a terrorist attack, why were measures made to guard the train network? Also, we have a government text alert system for emergencies. Why was that not deployed? Yeah. Paul from Manchester. Great amount of response to this morning. Good morning, Jez, Poppy. It's about time the government had a serious debate about knife crime. All the governments do when a situation like this happens is bury their head in the sand. Vic is in Bournemouth. Morning, Jez. Well, at least Starmer posted about the train attack because he didn't say a word about Wayne Broadhurst, who was murdered last Monday walking his dog. Yeah. Absolutely true.
Absolutely. Again, it's treated as if that's just like a normal occasion. This would have been front page news for weeks 20 years ago. I'm sorry, something has changed here. This is becoming normalised. And again, it comes down to the fact of how many men out there right now are loose cannons that could at any moment snap. Because there's got to be
Deborah in Essex, so this is interesting. This will be the part of the debate. She says, you two, mental health or not, everyone knows right from wrong. Yeah. Shocking. Do you know right from wrong if you're mentally ill?
I mean, you shouldn't. If you don't.
I'm being very nice this morning, aren't I? But you know, there are schizophrenic people who don't know what time of day it is.
If you're schizophrenic and you're psychotic, you shouldn't be on the streets.
Precisely. So we're back there again. Yeah. We're back there. Oh, we can't section you because that would take away your liberty.
If you've got anxiety and depression. Yeah. But if you are psychotic to the extent that you think the devil is telling you to wave a knife around on a train, you should be detained.
I think that makes Poppy Coburn for Prime Minister. Kate's in Wirral. That's the posh part of Liverpool. Do you know that?
I do know the Wirral.
Have you been to Wirral?
Yeah, I have.
They get out the bath.
A friend of mine used to live there.
They get out of the bath to have a wee there. we were told that the heinous Axel Rudabicata was a British-born B, not terror-related. Look how that one turned out. Notice they're reluctant to release this awful human's name at this point. I think people are picking up on that. Cliff's in Berkshire. Morning, Jez. Morning, Poppy. Knives don't hurt or kill people. People do. That's me leaving my phone on. Well done, Jez. Growing up in the 50s and 60s, we always carried knives in our pockets. The only difference then was that we could never think about sticking it into another person. Life's become so cheap these days.
Well, hey, I've got a knife in my kitchen cabinet.
Have you?
Yeah, of course I do.
Not going to your house,
I cook for myself. I don't walk around in the street waving about. Again, it is kind of true. Yeah. Again, are we going to have a situation where they were talking about this after Southport, that we have to blunt the tips of knives to stop these attacks from happening again? Yeah. I mean, what you just can't ever have a steak again because you've got to try and go at it with a butter knife so we can stop these attacks from happening. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Cardboard knives. Paul's in Cheshire. What if the ethnicities were flipped? The assailant is white and the passengers were mainly black, Asian, etc. Based on the two-tier system, it would be labelled a far-right attack and domestic terrorist or racism. The authorities are scared to call it what it is. It's an interesting point as well. And finally, in South Wales, which is very brave, Jason, the way you prevent further episodes of stabbing is by tougher punishments, like bringing back the the death penalty and making sure that people who go to prison and serve their time. Yeah. We've so much to say. Are we going to an ad break or are we going to move on? Because there is one person who is essentially the most underqualified person for their job, in my humble opinion, in the history of the universe. Yes, Rachel Thieves, Richard III, is back in the news. You'll know more about this because I was away on holiday. The estate agent, she thought it'd be a great idea. It's a great story from last week, but it just rumbles on and on. She thought it'd be a great idea. I'm moving into, I don't know if I've done the voice. I'm moving into 11 Downing Street as Chancellor, so I'm going to rent a house out in Dulwich. I'm going to charge £3,200 a month, and yeah, 60 months later, the Mail writes a story going, sorry, you're supposed to have a licence. And she goes, oh, I didn't realise that. Very, very sorry. I wasn't told. And this little estate agent came out and went, it's all our fault. That's sort of fallen back on her face now. Estate agent was not to blame for Reeves' house licence fiasco. His boss insists.
Well, again, this is a classic case, this whole story, right? If it was anyone other than the po-faced Labour government who are constantly putting people in jail or fining them for these minor infractions, people will maybe have a little bit more grace. But because these people insist on holding us to the highest possible standards, then I think we should do the same to them. And if you are lying about this stuff and you're trying to throw this poor estate agent to the wolves, and now his boss is coming out and going, hang on, we did send you an email. After all, you just didn't read it.
And we weren't the only estate agent, by the way, that you used, because two others warned you when you went to ask about renting out your house. I find it extraordinary. Somebody wrote an article over the weekend, exactly what you said, Poppy, which was, if you expect this from us, if you expect to treat us so appallingly, like idiots it seems, and charge us all this tax, and don't you believe that you should basically be treated and behave in the same way?
What was that, Angela Rayner, right?
Oh.
Again.
She's got a new company, have you heard that? It's called Wrong Move. Thought I'd drop that in for an early Monday morning.
Well, I think she needs the money at the moment, to be fair, pay back that fine.
Well, I'm going to tell you something that I genuinely believe. I think she'll be back.
Oh,
I think she and Burnham and Powell are going to be the power axis that removes Keir Starmer.
It's like the worst superhero troop of all time, isn't it? That is truly Avengers Assemble.
Rachel Reeves. I mean, I know people take the mickey out of her. She was like Richard III, but she is, and she has to be the most incompetent. I mean, she sums up this government, but I think he's too scared to do anything because he and her are inextricably bound together.
If she goes, he'll go.
Yeah.
Same thing with Morgan McSweeney. Actually, I think it's a throuple. If either of them go, the whole thing falls apart.
What an interesting throuple
That's an image for you in the morning.
Can we just, sorry, it's 20 to 7 in the morning. Keir Starmer, Morgan McSweeney and Rachel Reeves. That's some throuple,
I hope
ladies
no one's eating their breakfast, so I
no,
apologise.
they probably just finished it. What have we got here? Here's what, I don't know. Keep calls coming, 0344 499 1000. It just doesn't come through, it's not my fault, Chris. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Do you think she lasts? I mean, I also read today that £1.3 million is the amount of tax an average UK family will pay. How much? We can't. It's ludicrous.
Jeremy, you have to understand that this is all going towards very important services like getting your bins... Oh, wait. Your bins don't get collected.
Mine didn't. You see, now you've done it. She doesn't even know what she's done. My wife will be laughing because she just texted me, they didn't arrive on Thursday and they didn't arrive on Friday. And I checked the website and it said they should have come on Thursday or Friday. And so she says to me, her indoors, don't pay your council tax. And if I don't pay my council tax, I'll get a letter.
Oh, I'm sure the police will be turning up for that.
Yes.
You know? Well, this is the hilarious thing. Most people, I think, don't mind paying their fair share if they're getting a fair deal out of it, if the schools are being funded, if the roads, the potholes are being filled, if the bins are being collected. But none of those things are happening. So it's like, why am I paying you all this money? Where's it going?
I love to know where it's going.
Where's it going?
Let's talk about integrity. Rachel Reeves, I didn't know I needed a rental licence. Honestly, I really didn't. And all of them. Angela Rayner, I didn't realise I had to pay stamp duty. Jonathan Reynolds, no, I know I said I was a solicitor or an accountant. I didn't. I was lying. This is what Keir Starmer said, ladies and gentlemen, about integrity when he took office. Have a listen.
I'm absolutely determined to restore honesty and integrity to government because I think that is core to ensuring that people appreciate that politics can be a force for good. I think one of the reasons people have been disillusioned, disaffected, if you like, in recent years is because they can't see politics as a force for good. So that process and procedure and doing things properly matters to me beyond the fact that it, as it were, should be done properly.
What a load... A force for good is Direlite. What... honestly, what... That was a month after he took power, and I would say, without being disrespectful, his is quite simply one of the most incompetent administrations I can possibly ever remember, right?
You know what it reminds me of? That famous post from Boris Johnson. It was the year before COVID started. This is going to be a fantastic year for Britain. And I remember people kept reposting that every time
With
something
two thumbs, just
awful
like
happened
that, yeah.
that year. You know, they get the COVID pandemic, you get all this debt, government falling apart. You know, it's like he has the curse of Cassandra. As soon as Keir Starmer says something,
Did you ever
guarantee...
think it would be this bad? Seriously?
No, I didn't. No. I thought that it would be bad, but I didn't realise it would be catastrophic. I mean, every week.
Because I remember far further back than any of you lot here in this studio, right? I know what they do, the Labour Party, and I said it, you have to be careful when you're broadcasting during an election, but they've only got one policy, which is to give to everybody who asks, and in the end we're skint, and inflation hits 30%, and we go hand in hand to the IMF, and that's what happens. We cannot, right now, afford the interest on our debts. And we seem to have a government that is not brave enough to make the decisions, be it about, you know, terrorism, be it about knife crime, be it about drugs. They're not prepared to make those decisions, but they're prepared to put Lucy Connolly in jail for writing not words that I condone or anything like that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
There's something very strange where they release these statements that look like they've been written by AI or something. Like it's the way that no human being would talk to another human being, and the only effect they actually have is to make people even more angry at them.
He doesn't last, does he? He can't last.
No. By May he's gone. I'd put money on it. By May he's gone. May elections.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
And bad or not?
I think they'll both be gone.
See, I absolutely agree with that. Oh, do you know Leon Meredith? It's not your boyfriend, is it?
No.
Oh my, waking up with Poppy Coburn. What a delightful start to my week. Thank you so much, Talk. She's not even blushing. We'll take a voice note on that dreadful trade attack to the next ad break. Brian.
Just a quick thing on the statement released by the police that they're not treating it as a terrorist offence. The murderer of Lee Rigby was a British-born. The Southport killer, British-born. Just because you're British doesn't mean to say you can't have the ideology of a terrorist. This was a terrorist attack. Make no mistake about it. And sooner the people who are in charge of this country and the police who are here to protect us realise that and get that in their heads, we have got no chance and these attacks will continue.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hello. 13 minutes to 7 o'clock. Good morning. It's Morning Glory. JK and Poppy Coburn. It's going to become a regular feature if I have anything to do with it. JK, think back to when you were 16. I can't think about that. You didn't have the same concerns that young people have today. Life was a laugh with few consequences. It did seem different than it is today. A young lady like Poppy is probably harassed on a regular basis. That didn't seem to happen 40 years ago.
That's completely true. I literally am every week.
And this... Are you really?
Yeah, every week. Every week. Travelling on the tube. Because I have to travel onto the tube every morning to get to work. Every week.
When you say hassled, explain to me.
Oh, well, it depends. If it's a bad week, someone will actually try and grab me. I'll often get comments made. You get aggressive, like, staring from people. There was a man that came up to me and just screamed in my face, completely, like, off his head.
What do you do?
Whether on drugs.
What do you do?
I just sit there petrified. Because, I'm small. I can't fight back. I'm terrified. And what if they have a knife? You know, that's the thing that always goes through my head. What if they have a knife? What I want to say is, well, blue language I can't repeat earlier on the morning show, but I can't do anything. It makes me feel completely powerless.
How bad is that? If you're just waking up and you're listening, it's Poppy Coburn, assistant comment editor at the Telegraph, just really honest there. You go on the tube and you're terrified, and do you know what you say? That becomes normalised.
Yeah, it does.
Mrs. Kyle's on one this morning. She texted me. Zero tolerance on knife crime, 25 years for carrying a knife. That's why the bloody acid attack stopped. You're getting me ranting. She's right, isn't she?
Yeah, completely, completely. Well, if you think you can get out early release, you've served, 40% of your sentence and on good behaviour inside of jail. I mean, that's...
Well, we did this the other day. The Labour Party's latest idea for dealing with our overcrowded prisons is to say, right, I've given you 5 years for carrying a knife, and I know you've only got to serve 2.5, but now you'll only have to 30%, and you could well, hold on a minute. So why didn't you give him a 30% of that sentence? I firmly believe, I don't know what you guys think, I firmly believe if you're given a sentence, you should stick to it.
Yeah.
Loads of response. What? Oh. Alan in Merseyside. Years ago, my brother, who was a young orthopaedic surgeon, was invited over to America by a university professor to get experiencing gunshot wounds and knifings because they were so rare over here. See how that's just...
And now some London hospitals, it's like they deal with war zone injuries. Yeah, exactly.
The other main news... Well, there's loads in the news, to be honest, but I want to talk about Andrew, Windsor Mountbatten. A story in The Sun today, page 11, great story. Apparently he befriended, during his job as he befriended a lot of people, to be honest, in his job as a trade envoy. It's sort of, I don't know his name because I can't find the newspaper, but it's a very important sheikh. Shamed royal plans new home. Tips for a move to Abu Dhabi, a palace. It's air-conditioned with 6 bedrooms and a private thing, the helicopter in and out. Apparently it's the only place where he could be treated. Now, at the risk of upsetting anybody, I just want to throw something out there. I think he's a scumbag. I think he's an entitled pain in the backside who has got his comeuppance. However, it strikes me as slightly... weird's probably the wrong phrase. Is everything being centred on one man when this Epstein thing goes so far? Christian just made a good point. The only person who's in jail over the Epstein is a woman. I'm not sticking up for Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah.
But there are, we know, hundreds of other people involved. Is it I'm not sticking up for Prince Andrew, Andrew, in any way at all, but it all seems to be on him, right?
I do think so, and I think
Not sticking up for him, though, before you... I think he's vile, but...
I think he's disgusting. I think he's absolutely disgusting. I think a point that's been made, though, is some people who just don't like the royal family as a whole are using this as an excuse to push an agenda where they just want to get rid of the whole lot of them. Now, I think that Prince Andrew, again, this whole saga, is sordid as you like, it's absolutely disgusting. I think, he should be stripped of his titles, etc., etc., etc. But where are we actually going with this? Like, where is the end point of this? Do we just get rid of the entire royal family on the basis of this story? Because, that seems somewhat excessive to me.
And also, again, just, like, they talk about the water cooler moment. Over dinner, we had friends over at the weekend. This was the whole subject, the whole topic was this. One of my mates said, seemed pretty quick from nothing to, like, he's gone.
Yes.
Does that mean something big is coming? Is there something that we think is on? I don't know. But it's there's not a part of me that has any respect for him at all.
Yeah.
But it all seems to be on him, and it does beg the question, what about other people? Love to know your thoughts on that as well this morning. 0344 499 1000. Now, I'm sorry to do this because I know it was the boss's idea, but frankly, I don't care. Virgin Radio Christmas. right, sister station, Virgin Radio Christmas launched on Saturday. It's not... Was it November the 1st? I've got to sit for the best part of 54 days and listen to bloody Christmas songs. And I don't know who made that decision, but whoever made that decision, that is ludicrous, isn't it? November the 1st, wish it could be not for 54 days.
It gets worse every year. It literally gets worse. It's like when you go to Tesco and it's September and it's still Barbie outside and you see Christmas stuff. I mean, we never used to treat this holiday like this. It's so Americanised.
It is.
You know, 1st of December. Now let's all get excited for Christmas. You get your little chocolate...
1st of November?
Chocolate advent calendar. Well, I mean...
I went to... God, I'm so boring. Honestly, by the way, tip if you've got young kids, fish at the garden centre. That takes half an hour. All right, Chris, you got that. Go to the garden centre last year in halfway through November, maybe end of November, all the bloody decorations are gone.
Yeah.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
They've created this environment whereby, actually, Christmas... Probably, and then Halloween, my house looks like a horror movie as well.
Well, it's like half the year's Easter, the other half of the year is Christmas, and you're just anticipating one or the other. But the worst one is when you see the lights go up. You know, I've started to see all these Christmas illuminations going up, and I'm like, again, they look nice.
Are you not a big lights person?
Well, you know, it's pleasant in December, but it's not Christmas yet.
How long do you keep them up for? Wasn't it supposed to be at 12 nights or something? Talking about lights, this is a frightening story. Fireworks. Right? Should fireworks be restricted, right? A couple of questions for you. Is Christmas too early? Virgin Radio Christmas, welcome. And should fireworks be restricted? Fireworks night is Wednesday. Diwali was on Monday the 20th of October. Christian's got a young baby. I've been bloody well going off for weeks.
I do agree with that. I mean, my only thing is, as soon as you start to regulate these things, it hurts people who, again, law-abiding, normal people who aren't taking the mickey with things like fireworks. What they won't actually do is crack down on the people who are pulling off these fireworks, you know, putting them at, you know, buses.
I've got a video. A video posted on social media has shown a bus in Birmingham coming under attack from fireworks. Police have said they're investigating and reviewing footage. It's unclear when the incident happened. It's been widely shared. The West Midlands Force said there have been a number of firework-related incidents in the city since Friday night, with 10 people aged between 13 and 23 arrested. This looks like a scene out of Gaza. I'm not even joking. Have a watch here. The car gets hit as it goes past. I mean, gone are the days of a toffee apple, a Catherine wheel and a sparkler and to bed.
Well, I'm sure none of these people will end up going to jail for, you know, obviously putting people's lives at risk there with the fireworks.
Are we just being miserable, or are we actually quite... It's true.
No. I love fireworks on New Year's Eve and bonfire night.
You see, twice, though. You want it twice a year now.
That's fine. Well, every night of the year we don't need to do it.
I'm happy with bonfire night, New Year's Eve, my birthday.
OK, well, there you go. But it's everyone's birthday one day of the year, so you're going to end up with them the whole time.
That's it, all year. Right, let me know what you think. Has Christmas come too early? Virgin Radio Christmas on Saturday, far too soon, and fireworks. Shouldn't we ban them? They upset dogs and babies. Back in 3.
Yeah, so there's not necessarily an ongoing threat, so it doesn't need sort of an absolute urgent response from the government. But we know that the issue of crime on British streets and the issue of knife crime in particular is one that has not been far from the headlines in recent weeks, and we can expect almost certainly as we go through the days now into this week and we get further updates on the conditions of those people hopefully leaving hospital in an okay state, that the pressure, the political pressure on the Home Secretary and on the government to do more to tackle violent crime and particularly knife crime across the country will ramp up.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. The amazing Poppy Covid's with us all morning. We've only got a minute and a half. Jez Poppy, my husband Jez's birthday is on the 28th of August. If he wanted, he could celebrate by watching a TV channel called Great Christmas that shows nothing but Christmas films from the end of August. This is because Virgin Radio Christmas launched on Saturday. What a joke.
The end of August?
Yeah.
The end of August, but it's still hot outside.
H in Pompey says, I'm a veteran and now it should be about remembrance and stopping all this violence, not about Christmas. It's just ridiculous. Sarah Taylor, morning, Jez and Bobby. Sarah in Birmingham here. So on Saturday, one of my Sainsbury's Nectar Point offers was for Easter gingerbread biscuits. Sodding Easter.
What?
Literally, so Christmas hasn't even come and gone. Morning, Jez. 2 other Christmas radio stations launched on the 1st of September and the 30th of September. Ridiculous. Gaz in Pudsey near Leeds. Thank you so much indeed. So, it's Christmas start too early. Virgin Radio Christmas on Saturday. Fireworks, they're just a terror. They've been going on for months. Can we say thank you very much indeed? Can you come back next Monday?
Oh, yes, I can.
We love it. Thank you. Poppy Coburn reviewing the papers here on Morning Glory almost 7 o'clock. We are live across the UK. Whatever you want to talk about, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Start your message with the word talk. The news at 7 is next, live across the UK.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. Welcome along. It is, what is it, Monday the 3rd of November. This is JK on Breakfast. Thank you for tuning in. The home of free speech and common sense, dominated, of course, by that terrifying, and that's, I think, the word that we've come up with in the last hour, terrifying story over the weekend. The mass train stabbing a 32-year-old man is the only suspect. The train was from Doncaster to London's King Cross. It stopped at Huntingdon in Cambridgeshire around 6:25 on Saturday evening. A lone wolf madman with a machete running up and down, running amok, stabbing people willy-nilly. Front page of The Sun today, Devil on the 1825. Fiend knifed 11 passengers. Appalling fallout here. A worker, a railman, fighting for his life, having saved tens of other people. Let's just put this into perspective before we get into the whole debate, because these sorts of things, just saying to Bobby Coburn just then, you'd never want this to become the norm, and yet it does. This was Ollie Foster. This is a passenger just getting a train. And I said earlier, I've been on that train numerous times. My daughter is at uni in York, has been on that train numerous times. And you think what it must have been like. This is Ollie Foster, who was on that train. Have a listen.
I was in Coach H. I was literally just listening to Audible on my phone. And then I had guys suddenly run past going, run, run. There's a guy stabbing literally everyone, everything. There was a few of us kind of looking at each other like thinking, was it a joke, like it's Halloween, I'll be pranking. But then you could kind of see in their faces they were being serious. I kind of got my stuff and I was running and everyone was really pushing behind us, really panicking. And at this point I was kind of asking questions like, what's happening, like who is it? And they were like, a guy's just stabbing everyone back there. Put my hand on this chair, like just trying to push myself forward. And then I look at my hand and it's covered in blood. And then I look at the chair and there's blood all over the chair. And I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty serious. So some of the guys that had ran through to kind of alert us to run, they were the ones who had also been stabbed. So we're running over and getting to the edge of the carriage, still trying to work out who is it, what's their intentions, what's their motives.
Just total and utter fear. If you're waking up this morning, you're getting on with your life, but just stop and imagine being on that train. And this is actually John Lovelace, the British Transport Police person who oversaw this, because this came from nothing. There was criticism of the driver initially because he carried on. The British Transport Police later confirming he did exactly the right thing because he got to Huntingdon Station so that the emergency services could then get involved. They tasered the guy. He's in custody. But so much has been written about, he was cold behind the eyes. Who was he? Just listen to John Lovelace, British Transport Police. Have a listen.
10 people were taken to hospital by ambulance and another person self-presented later that evening. While 9 were initially believed to have life-threatening injuries, following assessment and treatment, 4, thankful to say, have been discharged. However, 2 patients remain in a life-threatening condition. British Transport Police declared a major incident yesterday, and counter-terrorism policing were initially supporting our investigation. However, at this stage, there is nothing to suggest that this is a terrorist incident.
So just from my point of view, and we'd love to take your calls this morning, 0344 499 1000, you text to 87222, your voice notes as well via WhatsApp. There were 2 things over the weekend that struck me. One was, why is this not terrorism? How is that not terrorism? Whether it's politically motivated, take half of that word, terror. I told the story earlier. My son went back to college last night, went on the train 6:30, 7 o'clock last night, down on the south coast to his mates in London. Within 20 minutes, he's texting me a drunken 20-year-old man is abusing him on the train. And genuinely, at 16, he texts me and he goes, I'm terrified, Dad. I said, get off at the next station, I'll come and get you. How many people this morning, last night, this evening, going to be sat on a train looking over their shoulders now? Fear. That's now what it is. So is it terrorism? I'd love your take on that. And also the other thing, why did the government feel it so necessary to release the ethnicity of this attacker straight away? He's a black man. He's a black man. I suspect, and I could be wrong, I'd love to get your take on this, 87222, that the government knows exactly what happened after the Southport killings. They knew what people believed and they withheld that information, Alex Rudabakana. But you almost feel like I mean, in America, as Poppy said, you'd have a photo fit and a name straight away, wouldn't you? They've given us a little bit. They're gaslighting us. Love your take on that. I'll just do this before I go to Peter Blexley. Joe says, if the attacker had been white, this information would have been given out immediately. The government and police see the public as racist and increase the lack of trust by withholding basic information. I've no trust in the police, who are politically led, and less so in the government. I'm sure I'm not the only person. I fear for the future. Here's a man who always talks and shoots from the hip. We say a very good morning. A former Met Police detective. I saw him with a drink in his hand on Thursday night. Peter Blexley, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you.
Pete, this mass train stabbing, just off the top of my head, for me, fear, terror, fear, absolute fear. I told the story about Henry last night on the train. Where have we got to in this country, mate, that this is becoming the norm?
Well, we're beginning to hear those testimonies from people who were trapped in that steel tube with no way of escaping this bloody rampage. Yes, the fear that must have been going through people's minds, absolutely dreadful and astonishing. I'm afraid knife crime in the UK has become far too prevalent. We've had empty promises, including those from the Prime Minister, who vowed to make this country safer and manifestly has not. Knife crime is an absolute epidemic. I am hoping that the 1st of November 2025 will prove to be a watershed moment when both the government and police chiefs, the length and breadth of the land, go, enough is enough. We have too many people, hard-working, ordinary people who pay their taxes, go to work, contribute to society, living in fear. And that cannot be allowed to carry on. We need robust action. We need forthright action. Some might even call it draconian. Quite frankly, I do not care. There now needs to be an unshakable pledge from government and police to make Britain safer.
I couldn't agree more. But again, I don't want to be the cynic in this, right? You say you hope, and I think that's the word you want to hold on to, that November the 1st, 2025 is a seminal moment. You and I believe that would be the right thing to do. Do we actually think that'll happen? I'm telling you I don't. I think that stuff that you've ingrained in me over the years we've worked together is what's relevant here. More policemen and women on the streets, on train platforms. I don't know. Intel. Who are these people? A social care system that allows... I mean, this guy's not normal. Patent, he's got major issues. Why is he at large? Stop and search. You talk about knife crime. Oh, we can't do that. It'll upset people. I don't give a toss. And when you get caught with a knife... My wife texted me at 6:30. She's raging down on the coast. She said, longer sentences for knife crime that act as a deterrent and you serve the bloody time. You're not let off. None of this. This is becoming the norm, Pete, and that's the tragedy, isn't it?
Yes, and let me rewind, if I may, just 2 short years to the 13th of June 2023, when a murderous piece of garbage by the name of Valdo Calacane went on a knife rampage in Nottingham city centre. He murdered 2 beautiful students, Grace O'Malley Kumar and Barnaby Webber, and took the life of a man who was nearing retirement, Ian Coates, much loved by anybody who ever had the pleasure of meeting him. He also, by the way, seriously injured a number of other people. That case caused huge disquiet because the police made a massive error. They did not test his blood at the time of his arrest. Consequently, toxicology evidence could not be put forward. That, in part, allowed Calacane to claim diminished responsibility. He now languishes in a psychiatric hospital when, of course, he should be rotting in a prison. It may be, and I say maybe, that there are similarities between that case and this case, insomuch as that they both appear at face value to be absolutely senseless rampages.
Yeah.
We still have to wait and see. But now, at around about 7 o'clock, this man has been in custody for some 36 hours. The police will now have to apply to a court if they want to detain him for any longer, or they will have to charge him. I'm sure it'll be the former, as they seek to, because they've got such a huge job on their hands to gather all the evidence. We will wait and see. But what we do know, what is undeniable, what is appalling, is the levels of knife crime in Britain in 2025.
Why do we not have government? Or, I mean, I know attack can't, because London's a disgrace. It's a cesspit of knife crime. Why do we seem to make excuses? Why? You know, my wife doesn't usually get involved, but she says give a 25 years mandatory sentence if you carry a knife, you stab somebody, you're not allowed out. Why do people in power not have the foresight to go, we need a deterrent here? We need a deterrent that says, of course, people will jump up and down and say, oh, well, you know, he was mentally ill, right? Well, he should have been dealt with then, because if you think it's the norm or it's going to be OK for this to happen, what does it say about our society? Is it weak policing? Is it weak government? What is it?
There's a combination of factors coming into play here. One, regrettably, is that our prisons are virtually full, so there isn't the space to lock up people.
Build some more then. This does my head in every single day. Don't allow people to be let out to, what is it, window dress as the Labour Party. Go, oh, I want some space in my prisons. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to let you out when you've only served a third of your sentence, because that will give me space. No, build some more instead of giving money to France for the migrant situation.
Mr. Clyde, you are preaching to the converted here. If we could build Nightingale hospitals in the blink of an eye, I'm sure we could put together...
That weren't used, Pete. That weren't used. I think I told this story once on Drive Time. I lived in Windsor at that time, and the Princess Margaret Hospital is a very famous hospital in Windsor, and the government paid the NHS Trust there £10 million during COVID to basically take over 90% of the hospital. 4 people ended up in there.
Yeah, well, we could build some Nightingale detention facilities fairly promptly, I'm sure. And I don't care if the army patrol it with acres and acres and miles of razor wire and snarling Alsatians, as far as I'm concerned. We really need to do something very, very seriously about this. But there's also another huge problem. Remember a woman who called herself a Conservative by the name of Theresa May, who got elected Prime Minister. And basically, she has done more damage to policing and the criminal justice system than anybody else in this country. She took out 20,000 policing jobs and told the police to rein back on stop and search. And that was supposed to be a Tory. We have had, of course, vast numbers of lunatic lefty politicians who say rein back on stop and search. It's prejudicial. It's unfair. Well, that, quite frankly, is nonsense, because it leads to more knife carrying and more bloodshed.
Can I just jump in, because I did this the other day and I completely agree with you. We were talking about the grooming gangs, and I was saying that I don't, and I'll say it about knife crime, I don't care the colour of your skin or your religion or your ideology. People with a knife should not be at liberty. And we need to get away from making an argument about race or colour or creed. I don't care if I'm stopped and searched and I haven't got a knife. I'd say that's the police doing the job. I'm being completely honest here. If stopping and searching gets knives off the street and leaves our kids safe, isn't that the answer?
It most certainly is. And I'm sure that most reasonable people, no matter what the colour of their skin, no matter what their faith or background, would completely agree with you and I. They want knives off the street. They want to feel safer. They want Britain to be a better place in which to live.
Can I just ask you quickly about Actually, let's play a voice note quickly. Kate on the knife attack. Morning, Kate.
Terrorism Act needs to be changed ASAP. All them people that train terrorised by one man now, wielding a knife. Children will have been on that train, and they're not calling it a terrorism act. Well, it is, and it is in the eyes of every decent law-abiding citizen in this country. So they need to get their act together.
I just think she sums up what we all think. Listen to this from Alan in St Albans, Pete. I travelled on the train last night and thought, how could I protect myself of passengers on each carriage? He says, and I realised there are 4 fire extinguishers. I would urge anyone to familiarise yourself with where they are. It might be able to slow them down enough. But overall, my feeling is of fear. This country's broken. It's true. It's what people think. It's not over-egging it.
And Alan echoes exactly what I've been saying, actually, for a very long time, because I am increasingly contacted by people, and I am increasingly told by people that I have the pleasure of bumping into in the street or wherever I go, that they are living in fear. Fear courses through the veins of millions of British people, and it is a government's major responsibility, primary responsibility, to keep its citizens safe. So I want to hear this week the police mobilising in numbers like they did for the disturbances after Southport, 5,000 or 6,000 police officers on the street, and I want them out there, and I want them, if it moves, stop it.
I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something contentious. By the way, good morning to John, who says the government can no longer protect its citizens. Non-lethal self-defence aids need to be made legal as soon as possible. Did you see what Shabana Mahmood said? Did you see the quote? She said, you know, it's very worrying and please don't comment at the moment. Let us get on with our job. It's up there on the screen. This is an extra... I'm deeply saddened to hear about the stabbings in Huntingdon. My thoughts go out to those affected. 2 suspects have been immediately arrested. No, 1. I'm receiving regular updates. I urge people to avoid comment and speculation. Now I'm going to say something that probably won't go down well with all sorts of people. You just made the point, Pete. You want to see a mobilisation this week. You want to see our police on the streets trying to get the information. That happened after Southport, but I felt at the time that it sort of fitted the rhetoric that Starmer wanted, which was all those people are far right. You have to do it across the board. You're absolutely... People are in fear. If you sit on a train and you're looking over your shoulder, it is like New York in the 80s and 90s. It's frightening, man. Totally frightening.
And I have a far more apposite example to put forward to you. The Metropolitan Police, on its own almost, mobilised some 6,000 police officers for the Notting Hill Carnival. That was the Met alone. Let me see this kind of mobilisation replicated the length and breadth of the country. Get out there, officers. The officers will be happy to do it. Stop it, search it, and if there's a knife, throw that person into custody. Britain needs to be made safer.
Couldn't agree more. Peter Blexley, always a pleasure, never a chore. Former Met Police detective. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. We'll go to an ad break. Nick, knife attack, go.
Morning, Jez. Nick from Chichester here. I take the train to London twice a week from West Sussex. The trips are enjoyable until we reach East Croydon, when the train is flooded with people from different cultures, young men wearing black face masks, wearing black hoodies and playing their music out loud on their phones. The whole carriage tenses with fear for 10 minutes until most get off at Clapham. I then get off at Waterloo and I'm on high alert from people from different cultures, riding electric bikes, wearing black hoodies and masks, and I'm worried I'll get run over, even when crossing a zebra crossing when the pedestrian lights are green. Something's got to change. Starmer's police are only interested in arresting people for tweeting hurty words, rather than doing something about the menacing threat of people all around us.
Yeah, so there's not necessarily an ongoing threat, so it doesn't need sort of an absolute urgent response from the government. But we know that the issue of crime on British streets and the issue of knife crime in particular is one that has not been far from the headlines in recent weeks, and we can expect almost certainly as we go through the days now into this week and we get further updates on the conditions of those people hopefully leaving hospital in an okay state, that the pressure, the political pressure on the Home Secretary and on the government to do more to tackle violent crime and particularly knife crime across the country will ramp up.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Good morning. 7:25. You were Morning Glory. Tuesday, the 3rd of November. Not that you care, but the date could be relevant because apart from this heinous story about the train attack, and we'll do it throughout the morning, we've got lots of guests lined up and your thoughts are very important to us. 0344 499 1000. There's a couple of other things. Now, the boss of this institution here decided to launch Virgin Radio Christmas on Saturday, the 1st of November. Which means between you and me, people, I have to listen to bloody Christmas songs for 54 days, right? Which is ridiculous. Has Christmas come too early? Or am I just a miserable old Scrooge? I did point out to Christian during the ad break that actually the truth is I do start saying to my kids in August, if you don't behave yourselves, you won't get any Christmas presents and Santa will be watching. So am I in fact a hypocrite, or is it in fact a really good thing? That Christmas starts early. I'd love your text this morning on, I mean, some woman said it started in August. 87222, start your message with the word talk. And while I'm at it, fireworks. Fireworks, it started with Diwali on the 20th of October. Firework night's Wednesday. Christian's got a young baby. I've got a young... Well, she's about 2 going on the 31, to be honest, Iris. But honestly, it's a nightmare. Animals as well. This is interesting, right? Jez, fireworks have been terrifying our rescue dogs since mid-October. I live in a rural area and we still have the display at Kenilworth Castle, which we dread every year. Perhaps a levy should apply... Oh, this is miserable, isn't it? Perhaps a levy should apply to fireworks sales and displays and donated to local charities. Maybe you're right. This is interesting as well. Paul... As an ex-veteran of the Troubles, certain large fireworks were banned. We have an uncontrolled illegal migrant problem in this country and we're letting fireworks, which are explosive devices and could be used for other purposes by bad actors like terrorists, infiltrate this country. It's a bit deep, but I know what you're saying. So, Christmas, is it too early? Are you a Scrooge like me, or are you a happy person who thinks it's good? Wish it could be Christmas in August. Fireworks, do you love them or do you loathe them? Gone are the days of a toffee apple, a Catherine wheel and an early night. We say a very good morning to a man who I'm sure likes a toffee apple, Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform UK. Hello, dear boy, how are you?
Very well, good morning. You're a bit Scrooge-like this morning, Jeremy, it seems to me. You're sort of the anti-fun police, although I will confess that my dear mother, my late mother, she started Christmas on December the 23rd. And it lasted about 4 days, and that was it.
Come on, I mean, I know reform's a serious thing, but yeah, we see that. No, but November the 1st. Do you want to be listening to Christmas songs? No. Right, so you're a bloody Scrooge as well. What about...
No, I think I'm sort of, I'm a moderate. I'm a halfway house as opposed to a totally Scrooge like you sound.
Oh, right, OK. Well, I don't believe in centrist policies. I believe in getting out there and telling people what they think. What about fireworks?
Well, I mean, look, they're great fun, but everything in moderation. And
yeah, see.
Well, you see, it's but it does feel to me as though it sort of goes on and on and on. And I just think.
So basically, what I've done with you in 30 seconds is tie you in complete knots, and you completely agree with me on both things.
No, I've just confirmed that we've got to have some fun as well.
Of course we have.
I think I'm concerned about the lack of entertainment in your own personal household.
Mate, try having 6 kids. You saw me on Thursday night. That was a night out for me. Richard, the reason I wanted to talk to you in great detail this morning, I mean, you've been outraged at a story over the weekend. You've demanded an investigation after teachers at a group of leading state schools made inappropriate and slanderous comparisons between the Reform Party and the Nazi Party. Tell us more.
Well, there was nothing fun in what's going on in many of these state schools, and a parent contacted us to say, are you aware that a PowerPoint slide is being used, in fact 2 PowerPoints, by teachers teaching politics to A-level students, where I'm shown as a political extremist and reform is aligned with the BNP and the Nazis. And truly, truly disgraceful. The whole point of teaching is you should be neutral, you should teach children to learn how to think and to give them a range of the different sort of spectrum. And this is just completely, frankly, it's slanderous against me. Personally, I've written to the chief exec of this academy chain. He clearly knew nothing about it and has launched an investigation. But I'm pretty appalled, actually. And there was no mention in this document of the left-wing violence from the likes of the masked thugs, the Antifa bunch. No mention at all. Surprise, surprise. And yeah, this was just wholly, wholly unacceptable. And unless I get proper answers, I shall be referring this matter to the Charity Commission, because I'm concerned this Academy Trust is in breach of its charitable, neutral, non-political biased objectives.
It's really interesting. I've got a couple of examples. My daughter's at Edinburgh University, I think you know that, and she told me some months ago, and she, you know, her politics would be slightly different because she's 22, but, you know, that she'd been in a lecture, and the guy literally had said, you know, Britain is responsible for every world war, our army are aggressors, etc., etc. I went to a speech day last summer at a school I won't mention, Lord Wandsworth College in Hook, and I will mention it because it wound me up that much, and they paid some man from the BBC, whose name I can never remember, to do a speech. And the first 3 minutes was actually quite funny, Richard, and then he launched into how, let me tell you, boys and girls, that your parents have let you down by voting to leave the European Union. Your parents have let you down by not explaining that we need more illegal migrants. And he took aim at reform as well. And I remember sitting there thinking, this is ludicrous, right? And leaving, and one of the headmasters, I think the deputy headmaster said, was that good? I said, no, it was rubbish. And I said, education shouldn't be one way. You made the point. I'm all for both sides of the argument, but we have many examples now, and this is the latest, where actually they're being indoctrinated with this ideology, aren't they?
They completely are, and we've known for a long time that the academic community is hijacked by those on the left and sometimes the hard left, and this is the concrete evidence. And it's pretty shocking, frankly. It really is. And so the question then is, well, where else is this sort of the completely inappropriate materials being used? And you just think that why on earth would this educational trust be a charity when it's clearly allowing its teachers to be proposing a deeply one-sided political narrative?
It's really interesting. I was watching Nigel Farage ask a question in the Commons the other day, and watching the derision and almost the I don't know, just the childishness. You can see it in the people's faces. I know you lot jest about it and say the 5 of you are all in it together, but what hope have we got when you look at a younger generation, when we look at education, when we see these MPs who are so blatantly, I don't know the best way to describe this without sounding biased, blatantly unaware of how well reform is doing, and poo-poo the 5 of you when millions of people in this country are saying, hold on a minute, we want some change here. We've had years and years of this, and you get a feeling that all these academics and all these MPs and a hell of a lot of people are going to end up with egg on their face very soon.
Oh, I think they are, because never underestimate the common sense
of
so many people, and so many young people actually coming up to us and saying they support us. And I think that don't be surprised if the Labour Party quietly drops its pledge to reduce the voting age to 16 when they realise that that might mean that we get more votes than they do, given how badly they're doing. So all of this is look, it's an evolving process, but look, it's fundamentally teachers are there to be neutral on politics, teach the spectrum, teach the different sort of approaches to whether you're right of centre, whether you're left of centre, the different economic strategies you might have. That's all great, but when you look so heavily one-sided and describe others from the other side in a way that is not only frankly inaccurate, but is legally libelous and slanderous, then they better watch out.
It's really interesting as well, because a lot of people will say about reform, oh, you know, the five of you jump on the bandwagon about things to garner support. And I could answer it for you. That, as a parent with kids at schools and universities, really concerns me that they get the two examples I've given have happened to me. So I think it's absolutely a baton that you should pick up and run with, and I wish you luck with that. Can I ask you, Richard, your response this morning to, I mean, this horrific story over the weekend, front of the Sun, Devil on the 1825, just a fiend, knifing 11 passengers. We must speak about the hero railman who saved tens of lives, who's fighting for his life. Extraordinary, horrible, heinous. We get into a debate about knife crime, and just listen to this voice note if you can. This is Sean. Sean, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby. I think now is the time that the great British public are allowed to arm themselves now. There's that many psychopaths with knives running around, perverts and all sorts, then we have to do something. We just can't sit there and wait for this stuff to happen to us. I mean, I'm all for legalising firearms. I know it's not going to be a popular decision, but we're going to be able to do something apart from just sit there and just wait to die.
It's really interesting, Richard, because Sean, I don't agree with him in that instance, but I will say one thing that I've picked up in the last hour and a half is a real fear. I told the story of my son last night going back to London, 6:30 train, rang me after 20 minutes. A drunken man in his 20s was having a go at him, and I said, get off the train. There will be people today, tonight, tomorrow, and for the next few weeks who will be sat on trains looking over their shoulder, and it's an absolute disgrace that we've got to this point, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I don't agree with Sean either, but there is a fear, and we must pay tribute to the heroism which we actually hear about so often of just decent, ordinary British folk, and the stories we're hearing of the LNER person who is, we believe, in a life-threatening condition, who clearly saved lives. Truly remarkable. The fast decisions of the driver, and we pay tribute to them and hope that that everyone survives, of course. Well, with regard to knife crime, we know that stop and search works. The evidence is crystal clear. Once again, the lefties are trying to deny it, but it's all there, and it's just utterly inexplicable that that some people will try and continue to deny that. And we need more of that, frankly, and we need to give our police, who must be more visible. They must be policing the streets and public places more often, as opposed to sitting behind desks or sitting in cars and policing tweets and the like. And we keep saying it, but it needs to happen.
Can I also ask you...
Stop and search is a critical part of keeping people safe, and there should be a lot more of it. And you can provide the appropriate protections, because all police officers now wear body cams. It's all recorded.
I just wanted to ask you a couple of things that I took from it over the weekend. These are just my opinions. Horrendous, absolutely. Policemen and women on the streets, intel, just exposure. For me, stop and search, absolutely. You get a crime, a knife crime, massive sentence, and you serve it. I don't understand all this let out 30%. Why is it not labelled terrorism? It is terrorism. First question. Second question, the government released the ethnicity of the person in custody and said he was a black 32-year-old man. I would respectfully suggest that's because they feared that the same swell on social media that happened around the Southport killings could have started again, but I'm not sure they've given us as much information as we quite rightly need. What would you say to those 2 points?
Well, we must never stop learning lessons where mistakes are made, and a mistake was made after Southport by not providing the information. It was actually the government's own terrorism czar that recommended that more information in serious incidents should be put out as soon as possible to the general public in order to curb misinformation and speculation. I think that's what the police have done here, quite rightly. I actually called for it in a question to the Prime Minister many months ago after the Southport incident. So look, they've done the right thing. There's a legal definition of terrorism, and the police have to make a judgment as to whether or not it meets that threshold. They're obviously thinking about it very hard. It initially appeared that they had declared it a terrorist incident. I think that turned out to be incorrect information.
But what is the definition of a terrorist? What's a terrorist group, is it? It's a politically motivated group.
No, it's actually to do with, I haven't got it directly in front of me, but it's to do with whether or not violence has been perpetrated based on an ideological, political or racial ideology. There is a specific terminology around it, which is what the police.
Can I say something that somebody said earlier without getting into trouble? And it shouldn't be about colour, actually. To me, it's not about colour. It's about a society that seemingly these things happen more and more and they become the norm. And I was saying earlier, Richard, that, I used to look at, the United States, the shootings in the schools, and you go, oh, my God, and they became sort of not weekly, bi-weekly, whatever. I'd hate for this to become the norm, but in a week or two, something else will have happened. And I just... Oh, hold on a second. A definition of terrorist, the use or threat must also be for the purpose of advancing a political, religious, racial or ideological cause. So you're absolutely right. I just think that most people that have responded today have come up with one thing, and that's fear. And it does say not a lot for this country that there are people...
The reality is, for too many people now, particularly young people, in our towns and cities, they are carrying knives. Yeah. And mercifully, we don't have guns like they do in America, but knife crime is an epidemic in the UK, and there has to be a proper deterrent. Anybody caught carrying a knife...
What's your deterrent? What's Reform's deterrent?
Well, the deterrent is that anybody caught carrying a knife should be taken off the streets. There has to be a custodial sentence, even for first use. Yeah. And actually, there's plenty of space in the prisons if you deport the 10,000 plus foreign criminals clogging up our prisons. Deport the lot of them, and then you've got 10,000 places.
While we're at it, I've given you a whole slither, but I've been away, as you know, for 10 days. You know that piece of scum that sexually attacked that woman and then escaped from prison and I just want to throw this out there, and then was finally deported when he was caught, the bloke that was released from prison last week. How were we able to deport him within 18 hours with 500 quid in his pocket because of the public outcry, but we've been hamstrung to deport anybody for bloody months? How did that happen?
Well, it's obvious. It's called political will. And the politicians were embarrassed, and so they made it happen. Yeah. And the same could happen with thousands of foreign criminals clogging up our jails. It's called the political will. It's called ignoring the hard-left socialists in the Home Office. Yeah. And if necessary, just staffing up with a different bunch of folk who believe in protecting British citizens, who believe in the cause of sovereign borders. And that's what's got to be done. That's not what's being done. We know the Home Office hasn't been fit for purpose now, probably for 20 plus years. Home Secretary after Home Secretary says the same. The current Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has a serious job ahead of her. Everybody actually wishes her well. It's really, really important that she can do a job, that people do their job in the Home Office properly and effectively to keep people safe and to deport these criminals.
Richard, so good to have you on, my friend. Thank you so much indeed. Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform, talking all things there, including... There's some breaking news. Just let me get through this, because you could initially listen to this and go, oh, my God. Emergency services have been called to a train derailment near Shap in Cumbria. More details to follow throughout the morning here on Talk Breakfast. If you want to be part of the debate, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222, and your voice notes. Back with Rupert Bell. We're talking Royals next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 7:45. We're live across the UK. Morning Glory, JK till 10. We want your involvement. We're talking about that horrendous story, the stabbings on the train at the weekend. Just very quickly, before we go to Rupert Bell, a lot of you saying, why wasn't it called a terrorist attack? Your thoughts on this? The definition of a terrorist, CPS, the use or threat must be for the purpose of advancing a political, religious, racial, ideological cause. The specific actions included are, explain this to me, endangering a person's life, other than that of the person committing the action. Well, he endangered 11 people's lives, creating a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public, which is what he did. So was it or was it not a terrorist attack at the police? I'm trying to start something, but why are we not being told everything? 0344 499 1000. We say a very good morning. Today's the Talk's royal correspondent. Yeah, tomorrow is the golf correspondent, and on Friday he'll be the darts correspondent. We love him. Rupert Bell, good morning.
Not darts, Jeremy. Good morning.
Good God, man, you look washed out. Are you all right? The light's very bright there, isn't it? Are you all right?
Yeah, well, I got my window open. That's probably why. But,
yes.
you know, you always think I'm washed out anyway.
No,
don't
I
you?
don't.
So,
Listen, the amount you drink, you would be washed out. Belly, good morning. Thank you for joining us. I mean, God, I want to talk to you a little bit about Andrew. The Met Police today are being asked to open an investigation into him. John Healey, the Defence Secretary, was talking about taking away his medals from the Falklands. We know there's a story in the Sun today that he's tipped to vanish from public life and live in a 6-bedroomed Abu Dhabi palace with Fort Knox-like security. He's been erased by almost everybody and everything. And I just want to say this. I completely agree with all of that. I find him loathsome, entitled and an idiot. I think he has fueled the debate about the royal family and its future. But I do believe also it's all gone on him. There must be other people involved. I don't think that's an unfair comment, is it?
Well, it does seem to me that from looking at the Jeffrey Epstein whole issue, that he does seem to be the low-hanging fruit here.
Yeah,
that he's
absolutely.
the one who is put up and, you know, he can deflect from maybe all the other stuff. So maybe one or two people in America are going, phew, Andrew's taking all the flack for us and distracting everything for it. We're even getting President Trump making statements about it, so, and what impact it's having on the royal family. So it is, but if you just take that aside, Andrew has brought on this all himself.
Yeah,
and
completely agree.
And there's no. And I have to say, yesterday I was with Andrew Lowney at something in my local town of Stratford at a book festival, and he had a sellout audience listening to him. And there is not, I mean, the court of public opinion is absolutely against him. And there's no two ways about it. And he's got no way back. So, as Andrew Lowney even said yesterday, and I think he's quoted in this Sun article, he could go off to the Middle East and there would be no question answered about his lifestyle. So that may be a better option, because maybe the people of Norfolk don't want him there, holed up in Sandringham. So if he's just secreted away behind closed doors in a palace in Abu Dhabi, that might be better for him. But all the same, his life has just gone, you know, by his own actions. And I'm not, you know, he has brought about this himself.
And I want you to know, I completely agree with that. I just think we both are making the point. He is the lowest hanging fruit. Met Police investigation, Congress demands for that. Do you see either of those two things happening or not?
Well, I think there is now, he's, I suppose, a quasi-private, well, he's a private citizen now. He's now just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, although talk of stripping him of his Vice Admiral title. He could be Commander Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, because that was his official rank when he served in the Royal Navy. And when you get to Commander, I think you're entitled to keep that title with you, because you have served, and he legitimately got to that level. But yes, I can see something happening in Parliament. I think one of the reasons why he was stripped of his Prince title is by the King is so to avoid any questions in Parliament. But there might still be questions about the financial arrangements of the whole royal family setup. How are they managing the properties? What is going on? Not just about Andrew, but also others. What's the arrangement with Beatrice and Eugenie with regard to Kensington Palace? There are all sorts of questions that may be being asked, and the Crown Estates and everyone have now got to look very closely, because we are talking about, and you probably are this morning, all the people having to tighten their belts, the talk of the tax rises, and everyone living in strained economic circumstances. If the royal family are seen to be living a gilded life and not actually paying what is due, then I think that's not a good look for the royal family.
Couldn't agree more. And just to finish, and I think that's right, it then begins this whole debate, and I think that's probably why the King acted, you know, about the legitimacy, wrong word, the future of the monarchy. And there's only one other thing I wanted to say. We threw it out there earlier. It seemed pretty swift from we're not going to do anything to you've lost your title, you're out the house, you're absolute history. Do you think they think something big is coming down the road, Belly?
I think they've just got to their wits' end, but I don't think it's the end of the story. There is no two ways about it. They're trying to control the narrative. And you look this week, it's a big week for Prince William. He's off to Brazil, the Earthshot, the COP. He's representing this country. They want to see some positive headlines about the impact.
I wonder
of
how
royal
much of a
family.
carbon footprint it costs to go to Brazil, but there we go. That's just my opinion.
Well, he flew in a scheduled British Airways flight, so there's no private jet, so that is one of the reasons, and I think British Airways actually sponsor, are involved in the Earthshot. But I think the important thing is he wants to be seen to be exerting the real positive influence of the royal family, which is the royal family on a global stage, because it still has an impact. But he doesn't want to see more lurid Andrew headlines, which is a total distraction. As we saw, the King had to, when he went to see the Pope, that got lost. Andrew
listen,
has been
really,
the narrative.
Really good to have you on, Belly. Really appreciate it. More on Andrew. He used to be Prince. He's no longer. We've got some voice notes. We're doing a tick. I just want to say on the way to this break, next, this will please you if you're waking up or stuck in a traffic jam. The BBC licence fee could rise from 180 quid to more next year. God, there's value for money and then there's not. I'm dribbling. I'm so upset. Back in 3.
In order for it to hit the Home Office definition of a terrorist offence, there must be a motivation to spread terror. And that motivation must be driven by a particular ideology. And clearly what the police have discovered in the last 14, 15 hours is that that does not exist. Now, of course, they will still continue to try and establish why the people that committed this attack did it.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the Talk TV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 5 to 8. That main news story, of course, Devil on the 1825, that horrendous attack. 11 people stabbed by that lone wolf. The government say it's not a terrorist attack. They've got one man in custody. So many of you responding. Liam Goulding, thank you for your text. JK, a family friend's son works for INER. He drove the train behind the one with the terror attack. He said knives were also found on his train too. He had to stay over in London for the night. Bet that won't make the BBC. Liam's in West Yorkshire. Loads of you getting involved this morning. Was it a terrorist attack? What does it mean about knife crime? Should we not be stronger? Should the sentences not be stronger? Should we not be actually saying to people, if you're found with one, forget all this, oh, we can't stop and search, you should go to prison? Before we go to the news, by the way, very quickly, dear friend of mine, Adrian Mills, broadcasting legend and former BBC presenter, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
BBC. So apparently now you're going to defend this, aren't you? Honest, watch this, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
You want more than 170 odd quid, do you, for the tripe that you put out? What do you want now?
Hang on a minute. I'm not the spokesperson for the BBC. I haven't worked for him for 20 odd years. I work for you. Now, look, I don't care what anyone says. I'm putting my glasses on because I've jotted down, you get comedy, you get EastEnders, you get Gavin and Stacey, you get Match of the Day, you get Wimbledon, you get children's TV, you get Radio 1 to 6. There is so much, and it is costing literally a cup of coffee a week if the licence fee goes up. That is value for money.
Right, my argument is very simple. We're like a married couple when we do this, because I would never be. But, I mean, he's actually bitter, ladies and gentlemen. He's been ditched like me. Look, here's the thing. Maybe it is. My argument is really simple, though. You should be able to make your own mind up if that is value for money. And as with Sky, that I want to buy because I want to watch the football or I want to get Sky Racing, let's not talk about that, all sorts of things. Why can I not go? I like the BBC. I don't like the BBC. And the problem you've got is that when they get this licence fee, which is the law, and many people look at how they are now and say that mainstream media and news, and is it unbiased and all this, and that's the problem you've got. I think it should be choice. I really I do.
Jeremy, I was in the pub yesterday and I talked to my friends about this, and they all have got some form of satellite television. And on average, people were paying nearly £1,000 a year.
Out of choice,
out of choice. But what they were saying was the choice is you have to have this package to get that package. So the price is inflated. What will happen if the BBC goes down the route of that's what you're advocating, is that you won't be paying 180 quid. You'll be paying a lot more because demand. One thing I will say, there's over 300,000 people last year stopped paying their television licence. I do find it really difficult. Every time we have this conversation, I look at the comments afterwards. Who is this idiot from the BBC?
He's not.
But the truth of the matter is, it's there if you want it, and people will pay £6 for a pint of beer.
I know, mate, but I think you just said it, and we're mates, so go back a long way. It's there if you want it. I think the argument is being lost and can't be regained, in my humble opinion, over the years, because people are saying, yeah, I love the BBC. My old parents, God bless them, it was the BBC.
Yeah.
But I think nowadays in the market we're in, terrestrial television, the figures are so appalling. Everything's online. The highest audience figures last time were on YouTube, Dilly. I mean, it's ridiculous, OK? So that's changed. I just think that if you're going to have subscription-based and you're going to have choice, you have to do it across the line. Very quickly, because I know you're a man, Christmas, Virgin... This is ridiculous, the man that runs this group. Virgin Radio Christmas launched on Saturday. No, hold on, look.
No, don't. I can't bear it. Because I tell you, I was in a shopping centre in a well-known store in August and they were playing Christmas carols. It is so wrong. Let's have bonfire night. Let's go towards Christmas and then we start End of November, beginning of December, fine. But it just, I tell you, the Easter eggs will be in the supermarkets in another week.
But it's true, we haven't even had Halloween. I know Noddy Holder from years and years ago. He loves Christmas because they start playing that bloody song in August, and he's made a fortune by Christmas Eve every year. Aid, I know it's only a quickie, but we love having you on. Thank you so much indeed. Legendary broadcaster, good friend of mine, Adrian Mills, live there on Morning Glory, almost 8 o'clock. We are on until 10, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Start your message with the word talk, and the news at 8 is next on Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. JK on breakfast here until 10. Thanks for tuning in. As ever, we want you to be involved. You know how to do that, I hope. It's up there on the screen. 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. Text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Voice notes as well. The main news story, front of the Sun, devil on the 1825. We've talked about this all morning. This lone madman with a machete who saw fit to stab and seriously injure 11 people. The hero, worker on the LNER train that night, is fighting for his life. So many people with so many opinions about this. The police have released some information. They've said that the man in custody is a 32-year-old black man, which has led to many sort of questions. And you know, people are talking about knife crime. You might want to talk about that. How do we live in a society where it's so prevalent? Should we not be stronger? Should we not say if you're found with a knife, you get an instant jail term and you need to serve the time? We ask, why is it not terrorism? The definition, where's my piece of paper? One of the definitions of terrorism is endangering a person's life other than that of the person committing the action. And creating a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public. I would say it's a terrorist attack. And then you ask yourself, why did the police? Why did they release the ethnicity of the attacker? Is it because of what happened after Southport? 0344 499 1000. To put it into context, though, we can talk about all of those things. Just the fear factor. I told the story at 7 o'clock and 6. I make no apology of it. After that news, my son was on the train from the south coast to London last night on his own, 16, with his golf clubs, back to college. And a drunk approached him and abused him, and he was scared. He was, and he texted me, and I said, get off the train. He didn't. He carried on because somebody came to his rescue. But how many people now, after this, will sit on a train fearing for their lives? This was the passenger, one of the passengers whose story just, I mean, this is extraordinary. This is Ollie Foster. Have a listen.
I was in Coach H. I was literally just listening to Audible on my phone. And then I had guys suddenly run past, going, run, run. There's a guy stabbing literally everyone, everything. There was a few of us kind of looking at each other, like thinking, was it a joke? Like, it's Halloween, I'll be pranking. But then you could kind of see in their faces they were being serious. I kind of got my stuff and I was running, and everyone was really pushing behind us, really panicking. And at this point, I was kind of asking questions like, what's happening? Like, who is it? And they were like, a guy's just stabbing everyone back there. Put my hand on this chair, like just trying to push myself forward. And then I look at my hand and it's covered in blood. And then I look at the chair and there's blood all over the chair. And I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty serious. So some of the guys that had ran through to kind of alert us to run, they were the ones who had also been stabbed. So we're running over and getting to the edge of the carriage, still trying to work out who is it, what's their intentions, what's their motives.
That was passenger Ollie Foster. Before we go to Paul Bristow, Mayor of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, who's kind enough to join us on Morning Glory, just want to repeat that breaking news before and listen to the whole sentence, because in the context of this story, emergency services have been called to a train derailment near Shap in Cumbria. Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander has just said a major incident has been declared. There are no reported injuries. They're not two, they're different stories, but important to keep you updated with the breaking news. Emergency services called to a train derailment near Shap in Cumbria. Let's get back to the horrors, sadly, of Saturday night. So very good morning to Paul Bristow, Mayor of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. Paul, good morning. Welcome to Morning Glory.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Just more than anything, I think, this morning is the sense of fear, the sense of foreboding I've picked up from people when they hear about such heinous acts that sadly, and I'm not trying to over-egg it, I'm saying they become the norm, but did things like this never happen 20 years ago? What's happened to us?
Well, I think people have got every right to feel concerned and worried. The area I represent, Peterborough and Cambridgeshire, it's commuterville, isn't it? It's where people get on trains all the time to London and to Peterborough and to Cambridge, and people have got every right to feel worried. I mean, what I will say is that the train was passing through Cambridgeshire. It wasn't scheduled to stop at Huntingdon. It only did so because of the fast-thinking driver who managed to divert the train there. A Peterborough man, that driver, someone who I know, a hero like the train guard who's now fighting for his life. But it did stop in Peterborough, and it does look like that the perpetrator was a Peterborough, or the suspect is a Peterborough man as well. But there'll be lots of worried people. I understand that. Peterborough and Cambridgeshire is commuter territory, and I understand people will be concerned today.
In terms of the people in your community, when something like this happens locally, it sort of exacerbates the problem, but it does speak of wider problems, knife crime. Would it, just one thing that we're throwing out there, would you not call it a terrorist attack, or do you think that's dangerous?
Well, it's my understanding there's a very specific definition of a terrorist attack. I think it's to do with political and ideological...
But it's not. It's endangering a person's life other than that of a person committing the action or creating a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public. I thought the same as you, but we got out that definition. So I'm not trying to egg it up, but a lot of people are saying, they don't believe perhaps what the government are saying after the Southport things, and we want to try and do this in the right, dispassionate way. But I mean, it talks about social care, doesn't it? The fact this guy was out. There will always be people, I'm afraid, warped people in our society that need dealing with. But it's just overriding fear, really, man.
No, look, I honestly, I can understand that. And I think if this individual turns out to have been known to the authorities and known to the police, then there are also going to be questions to answer as to why he was on a train on a Saturday night and was able to stab people around him. What I will say is, while you can't always prevent against these sort of lone wolf attacks, especially on an enclosed environment like a train. It's the first time I've ever heard of an incident, I think, on a train like this, or maybe there has been, but it's the first time I've can recollect this sort of incident on a train where you can't exactly get off. It's like an aeroplane in that regard, isn't it? You can't exactly get off. But what I would say is quite often when you go to train stations at night or in the evening like this was, you see the gates open, don't you, all the time? And I doubt this individual actually bought a ticket, right? I mean, I'm speculating, but maybe if we had better security at train stations where gates were consistently closed, where there are access gates, maybe that would reassure people.
I mean, listen, I think those are very wise words. I think there will always be people in our society who will find a way to perpetrate crimes that are, to most of us normal people, completely outrageous. I think the reasons for what's happened can be manifold, but you're absolutely right. Just in terms of I loved your words. I mean, the story about the LNER worker who's fighting for his life, we're told this morning, potentially saved many people from being killed. Real respect to that human being, right?
Right. I mean, honestly, everyday people. This is a guy who just turned up to do his job. Okay, like all of us. Lots of people are turning up to do their job today on a Monday morning. He turned up to do his job, and to be confronted with that, it's just extraordinary. Everyday people, Jeremy, are capable of extraordinary things. You'll know this. You speak to people all the time on your show. None of us know how we would react in this circumstance. But the other thing I will say as well, local people in Huntington who were at the train station, perhaps waiting for another service because the train wasn't due to stop in Huntington, or were just, at the station for one reason or another, they joined in, as I understand it, some of the relief efforts on Saturday night, assisting the emergency services. Everyday people, Jeremy, are capable of extraordinary things.
Do you know, I completely agree with that, and I think much as I want those sorts of things eradicated and knowledge to talk about it is so important, because it isn't right that as a society knives are so prevalent. I think there are ways to deal with that, but you've also got to cut some part of that Dunkirk spirit, which is we're not going to lie down and be told that this is the way it has to be, that there has to be common sense and strength. Listen, top job, and really appreciate you being on. Paul Bristow, Mayor of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, thank you very much indeed. On that note, Ellie says, Jez, please tell people to get a grip. Yes, this was awful, but now people are saying I won't travel on the train, I won't go to London, I won't get on the tube. It's mass hysteria. This is what they want. Interesting point. They want us to stop living our lives. Don't ask me why or who they are, but that's how I feel. But please tell people that on an average day in London, there are over 4 million tube journeys. They're more likely to get run over than to get affected by such an attack. We must carry on living our lives. We cannot bow down to that. I think that's absolutely quite right. Tony says, something not quite right in my mind about the knife attack on the train. The police said the attack is likely not to be terror-related. In my mind, it's either terror-related or it's not. The police should know by now the suspect's been in custody for 36 hours. Gaz Connor. Jez, great show, thanks. I'm in despair, as are many others. I know I use passenger trains quite regularly due to my job. I normally keep a small torch in my work bag. I've just ordered a much bigger one. Things have suddenly, in my mind, got very, very dangerous. Have we got a voice note? Paul on the knife attack. Go. Good morning.
Morning, Jez. Paul from Sheffield. I've calmed down now. I was fuming over the weekend. Absolutely seething over the weekend about this stabbing. Look, why can't we set a petition up and say that the UK population should be allowed to carry maybe, say, a pepper spray, what's got 2 light sprays in it? No, that we're not much, just enough to get an attacker away. There's got to be something that we could do. Or maybe, I don't know, train certain members of the population to be taser trained or something and have them in a secure place on trains so these specially trained people can get to them and use them if they need to.
I will say this, I understand people's fear and I understand people's frustrations, but we must never get to a point where we're condoning or suggesting vigilante responses or anything like that. But I absolutely get that if you don't see police, or we live in a society where we can't stop and search because that'll upset people, people are going to get more and more hacked off. Delighted to say good morning to another person who I spent Thursday night with, Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International Editor. Good morning.
Good morning. There's so much to say about this absolute horror
over the weekend, isn't there? I mean, we've had a number of contributors this morning on talking about wanting to arm themselves, and that really is terrifying. Is that where we've got to in modern Britain, that people are talking about having to carry some form of defensive weapon? I find that deeply disturbing, and I also find it very understandable because I was back in the UK. I'm now back in the Middle East, where frankly I feel a whole lot safer than I would in the UK. I was back in the UK for only 5 days last week, and during that time there were 3 absolute horrors. There was the unbelievable bloody stabbing of an innocent dog walker who is tragically dead. There was a court case about another horrific crime that all came to a conclusion that involved an asylum seeking related incident. And now we have this, which happened as I was flying out of the country. And yes, it was a particularly horrific week in the UK, but there does seem to be a growing pattern of horrendous violence. Now, I've looked into this quite a lot in recent months over what the statistics show. And there's a lot of dispute about that, isn't there? Is Britain becoming more violent, and so on and so forth. What is very apparent is that knife crime is a growing problem, I think. And what we don't have, mercifully, is as much gun crime. And to put this in perspective, I was thinking back, and you'll remember these awful cases, Jeremy. I was thinking back, are things getting so much worse? Horrific mass casualty events, are they a new thing? And actually, I could remember from my own childhood 2 horrific things. There was, of course, the Dunblane shooting, in which 16 little children were killed and their teacher. That was in 1996 in Scotland. And there was also another one which made a deep impression on me as a young teenager, which was the Hungerford massacre, in which 16 people, again 16, were shot dead. And in the wake of those absolute atrocities, gun laws in our country changed. You'll remember, the whole issue around the ability to own handguns. And that's an improvement. And mercifully, we don't seem to have those...
Well, I tell you, let me jump in for a sec, because as you know, the wife doesn't usually get involved, but she was straight on the text at 6:25 this morning, and she made a really salient point. You've just said it about gun crime. She said it about acid attacks. Acid attacks were suddenly 3 or 4 years ago, everybody was having acid thrown at them, and they brought in, I think, statutory penalty sentence much greater than ever been. I'm not saying they've petered out, but you're certainly not hearing about them. I am sick to death of being told that, if we stop and search, it's going to upset this group or that group. Here's the thing. I don't care, said it before, about the colour of your skin, your ethnicity, your religion, your creed. I don't care what colour you are. If you're carrying a knife, I think you're a threat to our society. If I was carrying a knife and I wasn't carrying a knife and I was stopped and searched, I wouldn't be angry. I would, and I'll tell you the other thing I would do. I would make sure that the sentences were longer, they were statutory, and you served the whole bloody sentence. And your partner said not an hour ago on the show, and he's absolutely right, not only should we build more prisons, but we should deport foreign criminals so we've got space to put scumbags who think it's OK to walk around with a knife in the clink to stay in the clink. I don't even understand how there's a debate about that, Isabel. I really don't. Simple.
Well, I of course agree with everything Richard said on this. We have to have a zero tolerance approach to carrying of knives. And the opposite seems to have happened. And, Richard didn't actually mention on the show with you this morning that he himself was peripherally involved in a case in which a young man was carrying a machete through the streets of Boston on a Friday afternoon. And I want to understand why in that case, the young man concerned was found not guilty. There's a picture of him carrying the machete. There was a 999 response. I don't know why that ended the way it did, but it raises some questions and certainly provides us an insight into the challenges that prosecutors and police face in actually changing anything on this front. If you're not found guilty after wandering around the streets of suburbia with a machete, and you're definitely not a sushi chef, then I don't know what you are found
Sorry,
guilty.
you'd know more about things than I. Are you saying that I can't even say it. What's a sushi chef? Does a sushi chef use a machete?
Well, they do use very, very, very long, sharp knives, Jeremy,
Right.
but I think I'm going to stick my neck out here and say this guy was not a chef.
No, I think you might absolutely be right. So listen, lots of response to that this morning. I really appreciate it. The other thing, just very quickly, an opinion, and then we're going to change it a little bit. Why is it not terrorism? The government said this is not terrorist. We got the CPS definition. It's not the Crown Prosecution. It is the Crown Prosecution, so if you don't believe a word they say. This is their definition of a terrorist. The actions included are endangering a person's life other than that of the person committing the action and creating a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public. It's a terrorist attack, isn't it?
No, I'm not as caught up on this as you are, actually, Jeremy, and we're very much in the realms of speculation here anyway.
Yeah, I know.
But the bit you missed out there, I think, is that the act has to be motivated by a political...
religious, racial or ideological cause.
Well, that's the crucial thing. And I don't think it really helps to say it's terrorism. I mean, we all know that everybody was terrified, but terrorism is about an ideology. Now, we don't know what lay behind this, but my own suspicion strongly is that this is a kind of Valdo Calacane case. This person is probably a paranoid schizophrenic, and there will be all sorts of questions to ask about mental health services.
Do you think we'll find out in the next few days that the authorities knew about him and he'd slipped through the net, as we usually hear? That'll probably happen, won't it?
Well, depressingly, probably so. But I think it's not that helpful to fixate on whether it is or isn't defined as terrorism at this point.
I'll tell myself off. Miss Oakeshot's told me off on a Monday morning. Right, now, listen, this is very, very important. The man that controls this empire, I'm not going to name him, thought it would be a good idea to launch Virgin Radio Christmas on the 1st of November on Saturday.
What?
Which is utterly ludicrous, Denny.
Ridiculous.
The 1st of November, I've got to spend 54 days listening to I Wish It Could Be Christmas. Now, you're not a Scrooge, you've got children. Richard called me a miserable sod. Where do you stand on this? How early should we start this madness?
I do not want to hear Christmas songs now. Please spare me. I mean, my kids are starting to talk about putting up Christmas decorations here in the Middle East, of all places. In Dubai, the shops are full of Christmas things. No, stop it. Go away.
Brilliant.
Do this.
While we're on it, you Scrooge-like Kyle, I love it. Fireworks. There is the serious side to this and a light-hearted side. We've got fireworks night on Wednesday. Diwali's been going since October the 20th. I've got a baby and they go off the whole bloody time. People with pets are saying they're a disgrace. People are saying they're like explosives. We've got countries full of people with... Where do you stand on fireworks? Look at this video. This is on social media. A bus in Birmingham coming under attack from fireworks. They hit a car. I mean, look at that.
That is awful. But actually, in general, I'm incredibly up for fireworks. I love fireworks. I think they're great. And I think someone who's tired of fireworks is tired of life. But when they go off at an angle, and I've been at a fireworks display where that happened, it is actually very frightening. I mean, no one's saying that extraordinary footage is in any way okay. But in general, more fireworks, the better.
So are you going to do they have firework displays in the Middle East?
Not of the kind that you're talking about.
I'm going on Friday to the school one. Baked potato, toffee, apple, the whole 9 yards.
I love all that. Absolutely love all that. And I don't think, to go back to your Christmas question, surely Christmas shouldn't begin until well after Guy Fawkes night. It needs to be sort of second half of November at the earliest.
There you are. The woman has spoken the truth. She's told me off about my terrorist definition. She hates Christmas that early like me. She loves fireworks and she thinks we should definitely do something about the appalling knife crime in this country. Always such a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much indeed. Isabel Oakeshott Talks international editor. What is it, 8:23? Where's the morning gone? What do you want to talk about, peeps? Mass train stabbings, what it means for us, fear, the crime, the knife. We did that story with Richard Tice earlier, which garnered some interest. Reform compared to Nazis in classrooms. He's got hold of a a series of people who've told him that there's a PowerPoint demonstration slide being used in schools in a certain part of London, which is basically saying you don't want to vote for those people, they're Nazis. And Rachel Reeves, always a lovely start to my day. Rachel Thieves, as we call her, Richard III, in trouble again over her rental agreement. Two estate agents said you need a licence. How is it that this woman is still in a position of power? How is it that our Prime Minister supports her? Oh, I know why. Because without her, he'd be toast. Oh, you can dream. 8:24.
We have got forensics still conducting their supporting the investigation by examining the train. The train station itself is still shut. There are trains passing through, but they aren't stopping at the station itself. But I actually got here last night around just after 9 o'clock, which the incident had been dealt with at that point in time. There was a phenomenal police presence here. There must have been 20 to 30 police cars, around 10 ambulances still at that point dealing with casualties, and also four fire engines. But there was a very, very robust police response.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:28. It's Monday, November the 3rd. Morning Glory is on until 10. JK at the... Well, I'm not at the controls. I've no idea what I'm doing. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Don't confuse the two. We've been talking about that mass stabbing on the train. There's breaking news in the last hour. Emergency services have been called to a train derailment near Shap in Cumbria. The Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander, has said it's a major incident, but there are no reported injuries. We'll keep you updated. The knife attack, the 11 people who were stabbed on Saturday night, has generated so much debate this morning. Voice note, Dave, good morning. Dave, good morning.
Just a thought. When we're talking about increasing security on the trains, would it not be a good idea to give back the police officers free train travel whenever they want to go anywhere? Because obviously, although yes, they can pay for their ticket and they will get involved, or they have to get involved if something kicks off when they're off duty, if we make train travel free to all police officers, then more officers are likely to use the train to travel, therefore increasing security on the train.
Interesting. Your thoughts are welcome. 87222. Dean from East London says, Jez, we cannot imagine the terror and total fear of those passengers and the staff on the train. Actually, one of the members of the staff from LNE are fighting for his life, bless him. So in my eyes, says Dean, that attack should be classed as terrorist attack. David says, Jez, just a thought, but when I was a kid back in the 50s and 60s, you couldn't even get on the platform without a platform ticket. Really salient point. Gillian from Essex touches the point that I was talking about earlier about social care. When they closed the hospitals for the mentally ill, everyone could have told you this was going to happen. They expected mentally ill people to take medication and, in an ideal world, live in the community. Now the police and ambulance service have to deal with the fallout. Even people suffering with mental health ask for help. And finally, Liz in Sutton right now. 20 years ago, more police did carry out stop and search. If peeps or teenagers were out and about at night, there wasn't a problem with being stopped and searched, and also made you feel safe knowing the police were out patrolling the community. I don't remember as a teenager feeling as unsafe as I feel as an adult. It's 8:30, 0344 499 1000. So much to talk about. We say a very good morning to a man whose career I made. The political editor of The Sun, Jack Elson. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy, and as always, I'm eternally grateful for that.
Nice pictures of the weekend of you and your betrothed. Oh no, betrothed is the wrong word. Promised, having a lovely time. Very nice. Too near to me you were, by the way, but you didn't know that.
I was on the Isle of Wight.
Well, yes.
Back in my hometown.
You were in a hotel on the Isle of Wight, were you?
No, back in my hometown of the Isle of Wight.
Is that where you come from?
Yeah, that's why I've got 6 fingers and webbed feet.
Wow, he said it and he comes from there. What's brown and steaming and comes out of cows?
The Isle of Wight ferry.
Jackie
very
boy.
Good, very good.
Jack, we've talked about the situation with the sort of the safety of the knife crime and stuff like that. From a political point of view, I want to talk to you about Rachel Reeves in a second. I just want to touch upon this. This isn't totally, by the way, at Starmer's door. I can go back, as many people have said this morning, to Theresa May, who began the decimation, in my mind, of the police service. And people will always say, like Peter Blexley and others who come on this show, that, you know, real police work is garnered by feet on the ground, getting intel and convicting criminals. You know, it is another example. We seem to have not enough police on the streets. We seem to have not stringent enough sentences for those who get found. And there are many people saying this morning there should be a statutory number of years you spend in prison if you're caught with a knife, and you should serve that and not be out within 30 days or 30 weeks or whatever it is. And I think those are salient points, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. And for the last 20 years, there has been demands for more bobbies on the beat. And it seems that actually the bobbies are disappearing from the beat at a pretty alarming rate. You know, we heard the head of the British Transport Police yesterday saying that after this attack, passengers on the train network across the country will see an increased police presence so that they feel more comfortable. However, that often happens after attacks, but it only usually happens for a few days. And, you know, I think that there is now going to be probably more pressure on the government to step up patrols, not just on the transport network, but across the entire country, because people do often feel that they don't see their police on the street. I think you have to say hats off to Cambridgeshire Police, who did arrive within 8 minutes
Absolutely.
of that 999 call.
And the driver who had the
force.
foresight to carry on to Huntingdon. Absolutely agree with you.
Totally. But there needs to be, I think, a bigger presence now. And Labour came in saying they were going to recruit, I think it was 13,000 police officers. They wouldn't stop banging on about it during the election and immediately afterwards. But, you know, I cover this stuff day in, day out. I can't even remember the last time they told us about these 13,000 police officers. So maybe that is going to be some of the questions that come up to Downing Street today. But you're totally right. I think that crime now, it is being seen as one of these issues which is rising up the political saliency agenda, along with things like immigration and the economy. And attacks like this only sort of serve that purpose.
It's really interesting, isn't it, when you talk about integrity and promises. Rachel Reeves, who is obviously going to deliver a budget on the 26th of July. There's a great article in The Sun this morning by Rod Liddell. What I surmised from this article is she's got absolutely no room for manoeuvre because she's messed everything up. And we'll talk about the debacle that is her rental thing in a sec. But you talk about promises, you talk about integrity. This was, I think, 3 weeks after he came to power. Last year, this is what Starmer said about integrity when he took office. Have a listen.
Determined to restore honesty and integrity to government, because I think that is core to ensuring that people appreciate that politics can be a force for good. I think one of the reasons people have been disillusioned, disaffected, if you like, in recent years is because they can't see politics as a force for good. So that process and procedure and doing things properly matters to me beyond the fact that it, as it were, should be done properly.
Cut to Kyle looking slightly shocked. What a load of old tosh, Jack Elsom.
Yeah, and I think actually the more damaging stuff for Rachel Reeves would be what she said after her last budget, where she said that this tax-raising budget, which many people in themselves thought broke promises, because obviously they did a £25 billion worth of national insurance amid a £40 billion tax raid on the country as a whole. She said that had, in her words, wiped the slate clean, and she wouldn't have to come back for seconds this time around. And lo and behold, everything we're now hearing out of the Treasury is that they're going to be coming back with a massive, great swag bag for more tax rises. And I think that there's a debate at the moment, which Rachel Reeves is tussling with, about whether she does that by hiking lots of little taxes, things we've talked about, things like gambling tax, things like council tax and the rest of it, or whether, and in the process, annoying a lot of people, or whether she goes for one big manifesto-busting tax hike on something like income tax, which would be totally against what platform Labour stood on at the general election. What Rod Liddell points out today in his piece in The Sun is that this is a total false dichotomy. It doesn't have to be tax rise this or tax rise that.
Yeah.
Why don't we try and actually get some growth into the country, which pays for everything, by maybe even reducing some of the tax rates? Why don't we cut some of the spending commitments?
My pet hate about this government, I am so with you, is manyfold. But when they came out and they kept going on about two things in the run-up to getting elected, was it's all about growth. If you're going to grow an economy, you don't raise national insurance on small and medium-sized businesses, which completely has destroyed so many businesses. Growth starts like that. And they talk about the working people. I don't know any working people who think that this party's done anything for them, but that's for people to decide. She's got her sums wrong. She's absolutely screwed in November. And it does. You're political far more than me. I'm old enough to remember the last Labour government, and it's exactly the same as I thought it would be this time, which is we're going to promise everybody everything, mostly our union mates. We're going to come into power, we're going to shove out money that we haven't got, then we're going to either print money so inflation goes through the roof, or we're going to go on bended knee to the IMF, who are going to charge us ridiculous amounts of interest. Last month, this government borrowed £20.2 billion, half of which was used for interest on the debts we owe. They spend more than they earn, and we're screwed. That's a fact, Jack.
There are so many alarming stats, which you can throw around at the moment. But one of my top ones is the fact that you're right. The debt interest payment is going to be about £100 billion. That is twice what we spend on defence every year. It is just absolutely crackers how we keep on going on, running our economy so hot to the point that it's basically creaking below us. And there is not a conversation, a genuine conversation, about spending cuts. I interviewed Keir Starmer last week, and he told me that he was, in his words, determined to get down the welfare bill. The problem is that they're a hostage to their own party. You'll remember a few months ago...
Couldn't even get a billion, could he? Couldn't get
£5 billion. Yeah. OK, that is a drop in the ocean compared to the £100 billion we spend on sickness benefits alone. We're going to be spending on that by 2030. So in his piece again, Rod Little talks about, let's look at all these PIP payments. Let's look at things like anxiety, depression, ADHD. Are the people who say they really need these things genuinely in need of state handouts? Probably not. Actually, Nigel Farage last week talked about how, you know, going back to work is probably actually a better remedy than a life on benefits if you have some of these problems. And so it's all of these things which they need to consider. The problem is that in terms of the wiggle room they have with their own backbenchers, at the moment, it doesn't seem they have that as well. But I think what we're going to get, I hope we're going to get, is ministers from the Prime Minister down making the case to his own MPs that we seriously now have to look at the other side of the ledger. We have to look at spending in this country because it is just getting so out of control that we're not going to, that the wiggle room is just so low, and we're going to have to keep putting up taxes, and that is going to screw us even more than it already is.
In terms of the budget, Rachel, as it was called, brilliant article by Rod this morning, page 12 in The Sun. Get it, read it online as well. This great, I mean, I was away last week, but this rent the house out in Dulwich, honest to Christ. Again, I mean, I didn't know. Oh, I did know. Oh, I was actually told by one. No, now the company have taken responsibility. Oh, there's another. She lied in her original letter by not being aware. How is this woman who can't add up and who can't tell the truth still in a job? I can answer it, but I'm going to answer you, which is she's inextricably tied to Starmer. And I think if he gets rid of her, he's on even thinner ice than he is right now. True?
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, she either inadvertently misled at best, or you know, bungled, or lied at worst. You know, and that is, I think, what people are tussling with. You know, in her original statement, she said that neither her nor her husband were aware of the need they had to have a license. It then transpired that the letting agency had told them that they would need a license and they would do it for them. And it seems that there's a genuine mistake on the part of the letting agency. But the point here is that, one, if it had been the Conservatives doing this, then an inadvertent, you know, misleading would be probably grounds for them to say that they should go. But also, they rushed out that statement on Wednesday night. When this story first broke, Rachel Reeves came out very, very quickly with that letter to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister said, yeah, I believe you, open and shut case, let's just move on. And lo and behold, those weren't the whole facts. And actually, you know, for their, you know, hastiness to actually brush this whole thing under the carpet, they actually sort of cooked up more of a scandal than there already was. But I think you're right to the wider point about getting rid of Rachel Reeves, because Keir Starmer doesn't want to get rid of her because he is almost tethered to her politically now. You know, their souls are aligned. They've gone through everything together. They hike taxes together. You know, they might break manifestos together. And so I think that he can't get rid of her because he is as politically vulnerable as she is. And, you know, often if the Chancellor goes, then the Prime Minister goes pretty quickly afterwards. But also, I think it's worth making the point that it seems the bond markets also do not like the idea of Rachel Reeves going. And that is because while they're there, you know, raking it in, they don't want her to break her borrowing rules. They don't want borrowing to go up even more. And the fear is that if Rachel Reeves goes, and to her credit, she doesn't want to borrow an obscene amount for day-to-day
She's incompetent,
spending.
but she's the best of an appalling group, is what we're saying.
You could have someone come in who actually rips up the borrowing restraints and goes, let's just spend, and that is what they don't want to happen.
Jack Elsom, 3 very quick questions, yes or no answers, please. The boss of this group thought it would be a good idea to launch Virgin Radio Christmas on Saturday, the 1st of November. I say, humbug, this is far too early to be playing bloody Christmas songs, yes or no?
Yeah, my Christmas begins on the 25th of December, when in fact I'll be enjoying a nice, probably tune in a soirs or in Barbados. So actually, you know, I'm not even going to be braving the cold this year.
He'll be doing what he did last year. Jez, can you recommend some restaurants? You stay at home with your baby and change nappies all night. Second question, should fireworks be restricted? I mean, it starts in Diwali on the 20th of October. Now I can't get my baby to sleep. Are you a fireworks fan, yes or no?
I'm not killjoy when it comes to fireworks, but I saw those videos in Birmingham, and you just think, you know, again, it comes down to policing, right? If the police have been patrolling those streets, they could have lifted those oiks very quickly, put them in the back of a police van, and taken them back to their mothers, because that, you know, it did not seem like something which, in a civilised society, anybody should be doing. Just absolute idiots.
That is a journalist's one-word answer. This is a one-word answer. Should the BBC increase the licence fee, yes or no?
No.
Good man, Jack Elson, we love you. To the ad break with Sarah on the licence fee. Go. Hello.
Morning, Jezza. Great show. Excuse the husky voice, getting over the lurgy. Most of us, some of us, would not be paying that £180 given half the choice. So I don't want to end up with a £1,000 fine or whatever it is for not paying it. It should be choice. The BBC and their propaganda are absolutely disgusting. And, you know, we should be given the choice as to whether to pay for it or not. Simples.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
It's Christmas! God. Whoever did that's going to be... No, never mind. Thank you, Marky. Good lad. This is because the boss of this group, this mega place, Denny, I'm naming you now and shaming you, launched on Saturday Virgin Radio Christmas. Oh, I wish it was too early. It's too bleeding early. Ellie says, Jez, I agree. Christmas in the shop shouldn't start until after Remembrance Day has taken place. Yes, probably a lot later than that. Tom says, I loathe bloody Christmas songs. As soon as the radio station starts playing them, I turn the radio off until December the 27th. You see what you've done, Mark? We had 4 listeners a minute ago. Now we've got bloody 3.
It's Christmas!
2. We'll be out of listeners by 9 o'clock. Starmer will never get rid of Reeves, says Andrew Warrington, because of incompetence. He reckons it makes him look better. My God, imagine that. Employing incompetent people just to make yourself feel better. Alex Phillips is on at 10. It's a joke. Have a sense of humour. Julia's on holiday and we love her. All of them. 0344 499 1000. Alex, I'm jesting. We need a laugh in this building. Jeez, we do. Now, this is a story. I love what Christian's done. Taxpayers, this will make your morning, are spending $200 million on a scheme to help some of the world's biggest companies achieve net zero. Despite civil servants saying it's greenwashing. I don't know what greenwashing is. The man who does is William Yarwood, spokesman for the Taxpayers Alliance. William, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. Thanks for having me on the show.
I was a big, big fan of your dad's.
Oh, yes, let's go down that route, shall we? I'm afraid not related, Jeremy, not
Mike
related.
Yarwood was the greatest impersonator. He made, honestly, John Coleshaw and Rory Bremner look ordinary. He was fantastic. So I'm sorry he's no longer with us, your dad. But anyway, William, good morning. Net zero, or as Richard Tice calls it, net stupid zero. I struggle massively to get my head round, and you'll have to help me because you obviously know more than me. We were just talking about the debt we're in. We can't afford the interest on the money that we owe. And yet we're going to spend billions and billions and billions of pounds trying to achieve something that the rest of the world doesn't give a damn about. And even when we get there, what will happen? I honestly, and now we're spending a further 200 million to help some of the world's biggest companies achieve net zero. What about priorities? This is madness. But then people, let's balance it. We'll look at what happened in Jamaica last week and go, that's climate change. That's why we need to be better. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts is it's a complete waste of money, but I work for the Taxpayers Alliance. You might expect me to say that. But yeah, it's about priorities completely. You know, we've got a budget coming up. Rachel Reeves has got not much headroom. She's looking for money to save. How about cancelling foreign aid projects like this, which virtually do nothing in these countries to actually stop so-called climate change? And also in the UK, I mean, net zero has now, I think, become a pretty much dead issue. Like, you know, various, both the Tories and Reform have completely destroyed net zero as an issue. But of course, Ed Miliband and His Majesty is deciding to carry on with it and spend even more money abroad on climate age projects. My view is it needs defunding tomorrow, Jeremy, quite frankly with you.
This is really interesting. Do you remember watching Trump go when he got in and he went, we give 60 million to Lesotho to build, and he was, I don't even know what Lesotho is. This is brilliant. Under this scheme, the International Climate Finance Initiative, this is what we're spending 200 million on. If you are queuing or you've just had a tax bill, listen to this. We're spending £52 million, that's us, we're skint, on a road through the Amazon jungle, which goes nowhere. We're dealing with rusting solar panels in Zimbabwe. I really can't believe what I've just read it. What's this? No, it can't be. Other projects include a push to stop ocean plastic pollution in landlocked African countries. How can they have oceans around them if they're landlocked? Support for the Nigerian oil industry. And this is my favourite, ladies and gentlemen. We are skint, and yet we are providing millions of pounds to distribute free condoms in the Congo to try and stop deforestation by slowing the population growth. Sorry? Sorry, so if people don't have kids, that'll stop them cutting down trees. I think we should be encouraging all those weirdos to go and hug a tree and get out. Honestly, what a joke this is. It's a joke, isn't it? It's a joke. It's got to be.
Yeah, it's a complete joke, and you want to hear another joke, Jeremy? I've got one for you. I'm so glad you mentioned the contraceptives in the Congo. We at the Taxpayers Allowance just last week found that £88 million has been sent to Pakistan to encourage family planning, and the £88 million of that is being used on, get this, promoting the use and advertising of contraceptives in pharmacies and GPs.
In Pakistan. In Pakistan.
Yes, in Pakistan. Yeah, Pakistan.
For people who think I'm a cynic, go and ask that Betty, when I was on Drive, used to ring all the time. 75, paid a tax for 50 years, can't get a hip replaced, can't afford to have it done privately. And we're spending 52 million building a road in the Amazon, giving condoms out in Congo. You try saying that. And what was your story? Family planning in Pakistan. What a joke, man. What a joke.
Absolutely. And let's put that. Let me put that into context for you, Jeremy. We at the TP have just released a new paper called Lifetime Tax, which shows that the average household over their working life pays about 1.3 million quid in taxes. And the 200 million scheme you mentioned earlier, that's about 157 households' lifetime taxes just spaffed down the drain in one fell swoop. Our foreign aid budget, Jeremy, which is about £14 billion, is the equivalent of 11,000 households' lifetime taxes. Why am I living in this country? What is going on, man? Like, I genuinely cannot believe
could
it.
not agree with you more. We loved having you on. Do an impression like your dad.
Oh, I'm not related to him, and I'm actually not sending you Mike Yarwood stuff, Jeremy, I'm afraid. I know, tragic.
Never mind. We loved having you on. William Yarwood, thank you very much indeed. We're going to go to the next... We're all talking about this train attack all morning. Amanda on the train attack. Good morning.
It's Amanda from East Yorkshire. That line is the line that I get every day to work. And British Transport Police, which, let's face it, they're only ever on the train when there's a high alert or if there's an incident. You never see them any other time. I am going to protect myself. So I have joined a baseball team and I'm carrying my baseball bat with me every time I go to work. And they can do whatever they want, but I am not going to be a victim. I am so angry about this. I was going to say great show, but I haven't really been listening. I'm just so incensed, so angry, and I'm sure a lot of other people are.
Oh.
the police did a phenomenal job, which goes to show they have been preparing for these kinds of events, they've been rehearsing for these kinds of events, and they are getting better and better and better. Obviously, one of the most painful processes for the passengers was the driver pulling into the station before the response services could obviously attend to the situation. The biggest challenge, obviously, for any, whether it be a tube, whether it be an overland train, is you can't just stop in the middle of nowhere, because again, the response could be sort of heeded by that.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm almost on time. 3 minutes to 9 o'clock. Let's do some sport quickly, please.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
Tom Barkley, senior football writer at Sunsport. We've only got 3 minutes and there's only one thing to talk about. My team, West Ham, finally won a match yesterday.
They did, Jeremy, they did. I was going to go down the Newcastle angle for this one rather than West Ham, but maybe seeing as you're the presenter, Jeremy, maybe we should focus more on Nuno Espirito Santo finally having lift-off, perhaps, from their perspective. A 3-1 win over Newcastle. Newcastle, a team that haven't won away from home in the Premier League for 7 months now, which is quite a startling statistic given how well it's gone generally for Eddie Howe in his time in charge. And he was quite strong about his team yesterday, rarely this angry. Made 3 half-time subs, including Voltemada and Anthony Gordon, two of his key attackers. Said he felt like it looked like a Newcastle team. It wasn't about technical or tactical side of things. It was the fact that they struggle with their mentality.
I would say this: West Ham looked like they were up for it. Whether that can continue, I don't know. I think it sends a message, and I hope that continues. I'm a massive Newcastle fan as well. You know that my best mate lives in Newcastle. I'm there all the time. Probably go there more than West Ham. I think you have to take into consideration the Champions League in the week. I think they're fighting on 3 fronts, aren't they? I mean, West Ham are fighting on 1 front. So, yeah, important that they get it right, Newcastle, but hopefully lift off for Newcastle. Man City, Haaland, just incredible. I don't know how many goals. He scored about 1,000 this week, I should imagine. Bournemouth still doing brilliantly, but Man City now up to second. But all of it points one thing this weekend. Arsenal are going to win the league, aren't they, by a mile? This is their year, isn't it? I hate saying it.
It feels like it, Jeremy. It really does. I mean, with 6-point gap for City now to Arsenal, but it does feel like their hopes are contingent on Erling Haaland staying fit. Pep Guardiola even said yesterday, without Erling, it would be tough. This weekend coming, we've got the absolutely massive fixture of Man City at home to Liverpool. I mean, let's be honest, could it easily be a draw and Arsenal pull away even further? I mean, we had a few years ago, Arsenal had an 8-point gap at the top, and City sort of hold them in. But
didn't have the squad they've got now, though. Didn't have the squad. Great squad, the Arsenal
squad.
Agree,
100% agree. Arsenal, they're so good, aren't they? They've got basically 2 teams they could put out there, and defensively, no one can score a goal against them. So how are you supposed to beat them?
Good man. Who do you support quickly?
I'm a Newcastle fan.
Oh, fantastic. Good man. Thank you so much indeed. Only a quick one. Tom Barkley, senior football writer at Sun Sports, almost 9 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. Morning Glory is on. You might want to talk about the mass train stabbing. You might want to talk about how reform be compared to Nazis in the classroom. Rachel Reeves, Net Zero. It's your show. 0344 499 1000. The only number you need. You can do a voice note as well, or you can text this show as ever on 87222. Start your message with the word talk. We'll get that on. News at 9 is next on Morning Glory.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On the app. On your mobile. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. Just gone 9 o'clock. It is Monday, the 3rd of November. This is JK until 10. If you want to be involved in the debate, we've been saying it since 6 o'clock. As ever, you'll say, please, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Start your message with the word talk. You can do voice notes, been getting them all day. Obviously, the main news story, that mass train stabbing, front of the Sun, the devil on the 6th, the 1825, this just horrendous crime with this madman with a machete run amok, knifing 11 passengers. The hero, one of the guards, one of the workers, fighting for his life today, having saved many people from a horrible ending. The driver bravely carrying on to the next station, the amazing emergency services. But it's raised many, many questions. It's raised the question of knife crime and why we're not dealing with it in this country. Why are we not stronger? Do we not feel that there should be more stop and search? There should be stronger sentences. Those sentences should be what they are for. Do we not think as a society that might actually send a message to people who think they can do this? It questions how we deal with people with mental health issues, social care in the community. I fear, and I could be wrong, that within days we will hear that this guy was known to the authorities and hadn't been treated properly or hadn't been, secured, just so many of these examples, and you just end up thinking, what is the truth? We had the government being a little bit more forthcoming than they were after Southport, saying it's a black 32-year-old man. I suspect, could be wrong, that they'll be saying that sort of thing because a lot of people in the current situation and climate would be thinking, oh, is this some sort of terrorist thing led by some, I don't know, Islamic fundamentalist group because of all the problems across the world? All of that in the mix, but just to personalise this, right, for what it means and the horror. And we can talk politically, we can have a motivation. Imagine being on that train. Ollie Foster was. Have a listen.
I was in Coach H. I was literally just listening to Audible on my phone. And then I had a guy suddenly run past going, run, run. There's a guy stabbing literally everyone, everything. There was a few of us kind of looking at each other like thinking, was it a joke, like it's Halloween, I'll be pranking. But then you could kind of see in their faces they were being serious. I kind of got my stuff and I was running and everyone was really pushing behind us, really panicking. And at this point, I was kind of asking questions like, what's happening? Like, who is it? And they were like, a guy's just stabbing everyone back there. Put my hand on this chair, like just trying to push myself forward. And then I look at my hand and it's covered in blood. And then I look at the chair and there's blood all over the chair. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is pretty serious. So some of the guys that had ran through to kind of alert us to run, they were the ones who had also been stabbed. So we're running over and getting to the edge of the carriage. Still trying to work out who is it, what's their intentions, what's their motives.
And, our job here on Talk is to give you the truth and allow you to debate that, common sense. The common sense in all of this is we surely need more policemen and women on the streets. We need to, as I said, create stronger deterrence, be that in the crimes, having a punishment that's sort of relatable. But what's happening is there's fear, picked up on that, but also people, and I'm not saying I condone it, are beginning to say, well, how are we going to defend ourselves? Morning, Jane.
Morning, JK. Great show. I'm going to London at the end of this month, and I've actually bought some self-defence spray because it absolutely petrifies me. I'm going to supposedly enjoy myself. I'm going to be absolutely terrified for the 4 days that I'm in London.
Let's say a very good morning to the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp. Chris, good morning. Welcome to Morning Glory.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Anybody of any political persuasion will look at what's happened on Saturday and just be appalled. It's a heinous crime, and of course all the questions will start coming. Why are we not, and I'm not laying this entirely at the Labour Party, I'll lay it at your lot, starting with Theresa May. Why are we not stronger on knife crime? Why don't we, maybe I'm a madman, why don't we say if you're found with a knife, you're going to jail for that period and you're not being let out? Why do we not say, I'm not bothered about upsetting certain people, we are going to stop and search at will, and if that helps us get knives off the street and stop situations like that, surely that makes sense, Chris Philp.
Yeah, well, I agree, and I said
essentially what you just said at our party conference just a few weeks ago. We need way more stop and search, because stop and search does take knives off the street. One of the most eminent criminologists, Professor Lawrence Sherman, said that if we returned stop and search levels to the 2011 levels, it would prevent 30% of knife-enabled homicides, which is something like about 80 per year. There's about 250 in total. I think in the high crime hotspot areas where crime is most prevalent, the 5% hotspot areas where a quarter of all crime takes place, the police should do general stop and search of anyone, even if they have no grounds for suspicion. And outside of those hotspots, it should be a lot easier to do stop and search, because it will, as I say, as you said and as I've said, it takes knives off the street. Now, some left-wing politicians like Sadiq Khan and others complain about stop and search. They say that the black community gets disproportionately stopped and searched. But when you measure stop and search not against the total population but against the offending population, the disproportionality disappears. And if you look at the success rate of stop and search, so the percent of stop and searches where a knife or drugs are found, which in London is about 30%, they find something, that figure within a percent or two is the same across all ethnic groups. And if the police were unfairly picking on one particular group, then those figures would be different. They're not different, they're about the same. I said in my we need to triple stop and search is what we need to do.
Breaking news which you might not be aware of, but as the Sherlock Holmes Secretary probably will very soon, Anthony Williams has just been named, 32-year-old from Peterborough. He's just been charged with 10 counts of attempted murder, 1 count of actual bodily harm and 1 count of the possession of a bladed article following this knife attack on that train in Cambridge on Saturday. British Transport Police have just released it. Anthony Williams, 32, from Peterborough, has just been charged with 10 counts of attempted murder, 1 count of actual bodily harm, 1 count of possession of a bladed article. We'll keep you updated on Talk. Chris, I don't want to make this political, because the one thing that I've heard this morning on the show is fear. You heard it in that caller there. There are people who are saying, I mean, you won't have been around, but I was telling this story earlier about my son. Went on the train from the south coast to London last night. He's 16, to go back to his mates, golf college today. Drunken man in his 20s was rude to him, approached him, didn't attack him, but he abused him, and then somebody jumped in, and he was scared, and that's natural. Dean in West Wales says, in Australia they have what they call transit guards on the trains. Women and young girls can travel alone without feeling unsafe. Perhaps we need it here. When I say I don't want to make it political, the lack of policemen and women on the street started with Theresa May. You were in power for 14 years. How have we got a knife crime epidemic? It's all well and good now, and I agree with you, but this isn't 14 months, this problem. This has been a long time coming, Chris Philp, hasn't it?
Yes, look, over the last 5 years or so, knife crime did get reduced, but it's still too high. About 250 or so knife-enabled homicides a year. It's far too high. Now, there were reductions in police numbers after 2010 because of the financial mess the previous Labour government left behind. But when I was police minister in the last couple of years of the last government, we recruited a lot more police officers, and we actually left government a year and a half ago with record ever numbers of police. It was 149,769 on March the 31st, 2024. That's the highest number in history. Unfortunately, since then, under Labour, it has started going down. So one of the things I announced at our conference a few weeks ago was an extra £800 million to fund 10,000 more police officers, about half of whom should be used to do surge hotspot patrolling in those high crime hotspots, because we know that surge hotspot policing works. We know stop and search works.
But Chris, I'm not against that, but you'd hardly call a train between Doncaster and Huntingdon a hotspot. What I'm trying to talk about is, and I get it, I'm not having a go, but it's almost like, I used to watch the television about those gun shootings, massacres in America, and think, oh my God, that's America. What I'm saying is not that Huntingdon is the norm. We can think back to Hungerford. We were talking about that earlier. I would hate in a week for this to just be chalked off as the norm. Something has to be done. All I've heard this morning is fear. People are fearing to go and sit on a train on their own. What does that say about our society? We've become a society that seems to apologise for people who commit crimes and not really be doing enough, in my humble opinion, about the victims.
That's right. Well, I agree. So we should not be apologising or cosseting the perpetrators. We should be sending them to prison for a very long time, and we should be showing zero tolerance in public. And that includes, I've said it before, and you said it at the beginning, a lot more tactics like stop and search, the use of technology like live facial recognition to identify wanted criminals and known dangerous offenders, not the public, obviously, whose images get immediately and automatically deleted. So there's technology we can use. We should have zero tolerance for this stuff, because people like your son, you mentioned your 16-year-old son, the caller from Wales you mentioned, they should not be feeling fearful on a train, on the high street, frankly, anywhere. We should be putting all of our training, all of our attention on the perpetrators, showing zero tolerance and zero mercy to those perpetrators and putting them where they belong, which is in prison. And we need to get a lot tougher on this stuff, in my view, and it sounds like your listeners agree with that as well.
Max in Minchampen says, if I get pulled over in a car by the police for a random breath test, I should only have a problem with that if I've been drinking. So, if I get stopped on a random knife search, I really should only have a problem with that if I've got a knife on me. He says mandatory 5 years for carrying and mandatory 25 years for using, and you could get the prison space. If you're not going to build prisons, deport the foreign criminals in a heartbeat. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, look, I think there's a great deal in those thoughts. There are, as he says, something like 10,000 or slightly over 10,000 foreign national offenders, foreign criminals in our prisons. A lot of those should be basically deported straight away. Some should serve a bit more time in prison and then get deported, and that would free up space in our prisons for knife offenders and other forms of prolific offender. I think like prolific shoplifters should go to prison as well. So I think there's a lot in what your caller says there.
Really appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you. That is Chris Philps, Shadow Home Secretary, 9:15. Just to repeat that breaking news, Anthony Williams, 32, from Peterborough, has just been charged by the British Transport Police with 10 counts of attempted murder, 1 count of actual bodily harm and 1 count of the possession of a bladed article following that terrifying knife attack on that train in Cambridgeshire on Saturday. 0344 499 1000. Stuart's in Tunbridge Wells. Jez, surely if we just had a knife amnesty and someone is caught in possession of a knife, having failed to hand in the penalty, should be higher. This is interesting. Deb says, my late husband carried an army Swiss knife, always. He used it as a screwdriver. He peeled apples with it, he cut string, he opened a beer, he cleaned his pipe and many other things. I would say there's a legitimate reason for carrying a knife, and I'm sure there are many others like him. Interesting. Linda in Stalybridge says, my husband worked on the railways for over 25 years. He was attacked, abused by people who wouldn't want to pay, spat at, sexually assaulted, dealt with drunks, drug addicts. When they go and check tickets, it's been horrendous for years, let alone the women conductors putting up with sexual abuse. Many times conductors have helped the public out from the nutters of this world. Then you get the do-gooders who want to get rid of the conductors to save money. The whole thing needs changing. Nigel Brown, finally. Morning, Jez. This country has been driven over the precipice. It's been far more than a step over. It's been driven and forced by those in charge. We are heading to potential peril. Here's a man who's always not frightened to give his opinion. A political commentator slash, ladies and gentlemen, Reform councillor. A man who has just been elected as a Reform councillor with my help and wants to be the Mayor of Essex with my help. Russell Quirk, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Well, I would be okay if it were not for, not just this news, to be honest, mate, but I am sick to the back teeth with these hand-wringing politicians like Chris Philp and Shabama Mahmood that come onto the telly after these incidents, of which there are plenty. I lost count last week, by the way, insofar as how many incidents of stabbings and murders there were in this once great country. I am sick and tired, as I'm sure you are, and viewers and listeners to this station are, of listening for 24 to 48 hours, these empty-suited, vacuous morons that are supposed to be looking after us as our elected politicians, simply wringing their hands and saying how horrendous this is, and it's awful, and the old lessons will be learned mantra. Lessons are never learned, are they? Because if they were, we would not be in this position, Jez. Can I just, you talked a lot, actually, very wisely, I think, with Chris Philp and before, with regard to the stats around such things as stop and search and so on. Let me just give you some reality to where we are with stop and search. Stop and search has reduced by over 60% over the last few years. So we used to stop and search at a rate of 24 stops and searches per 1,000 people in this country. That's down to 8 stop and searches per 1,000 people. So literally, Chris Philp talking about we need to increase it by X%. That would only take us back to where we were previously. So we are in a position where stop and search has almost disappeared. We now have more police officers in Britain than ever before, 146,000 police officers. However, I'm not sure where they are. They're certainly not patrolling the streets. They're certainly not in their panda cars driving up and down Shenfield High Street. And they're definitely not, by way of British Transport Police, actually on trains patrolling as a visible deterrent. And one final thing, sorry, I am on a rant, but I am extremely angry about where we are in this country, particularly with regard to, I mean, crime generally, Jez, but certainly knife crime. And that is this illusion that we have laws in place to protect us when you have a law in place that says if you are caught with a bladed instrument for the second time, it is an automatic custodial sentence. Do you know how many people actually go to prison as a consequence of being caught with a bladed instrument for the second time?
Not many.
Barely 50%, mate. Barely 50%. So we can talk about increasing our laws and strengthening the legislature. It makes no difference if either the police aren't around to deter the crime in the first place, or we have a woke CPS, a woke judiciary that simply, when you've got some scrote that has been caught several times with a knife, presumably with an intent to use it, he's literally just let off to go and then commit another crime further down the line.
Couldn't agree more. And I think the thing that I picked up on this morning more than anything is fear. I told the story about Henry, but more than that, people just saying, what have we come to? Great text just then, Russ, which said, look, if I get stopped drink driving, if you heard it, and I'm drinking, I'm going to be guilty. I don't mind if they want to stop me and search for a knife, because I'm not going to be carrying a knife. I do not understand in a civilised society where we wouldn't be trying to do everything we possibly can to say, let's rid ourselves of that. And it goes back, and I don't actually, today I have to get through the whole show without talking about illegal migration, but just make a point that I can put together. The pull of this country is so great, OK? They go on and on about a deterrent for illegal migration. The deterrent should be to make it less attractive to come here. Not how you get here, but when you get here, you don't have your backside wiped. The same with knife crime. I am sick to death of hearing. Of course, Sadiq Khan and his cronies are worried about, you know, diversity, exclusivity. Here's the employee of the year who's had a month off for whatever and has fought back for... No, hold on a second. Your trains are a disgrace and knife crime is prevalent. Say to people, if you're carrying, it's 5 years and you're going to serve it. If you commit a crime, it's longer, whatever it's going to be. Stick to it, serve it. That's your deterrent. Stop and search, not rockets. Oh, we haven't got any prisons. Get rid of the foreign criminals, build some bloody prisons. Oh, that'll take a while, but you should have started a while ago. But start now. Stop giving £500 million a year to France to look after something that can't be arsed with, and build some prisons. You did it with the Nightingale hospitals. All that sort of stuff completely makes sense. But what's happening, fear will lead people to ring this show and say, well, you know, I'm carrying pepper spray, or I think I should carry a knife, or blah. We're not condoning anything like that. There is not a part of me that condones that. But I absolutely guarantee you I understand why people are saying, hold on a second, I've got no money because we're spending it on other people despite the fact we're paying in. I pay all this money and I'm not even safe sitting on a bloody train nowadays. I see people attacking young girls and getting away with it. We've got a judicial system that seems to favour the perpetrator rather than the victim. And people are wringing their hands going, what the hell, I nearly said the wrong word there, is going on here? And I get that.
And Jez, I've got to say the uncomfortable, quiet thing out loud, because this is a station that believes in such things. And that is, if there is a disproportionality to ethnicity when it comes to knife crime, rather than reining back stop and search so it doesn't call out those ethnic minorities that have a higher propensity to carry and use knives, we need to do something about it. And I'm afraid in London in particular, if it is more likely that a black person or an Asian person will be caught carrying a knife, will be caught as the perpetrator of a knife crime, a stabbing or a murder, that then the consequence, the result, the answer to that is not to withdraw stop and search, it's to increase it.
It's really simple to me, Russ.
It has to not be two-tier.
I agree with you, and I said it last week when everybody was going, well, what, you know, about the grooming gangs, and I said, listen, you've got them. We've got teenage daughters, you and I, right? Yeah. I don't care the colour of your skin, your religion, your creed, I don't care. I don't think, no, I don't want a man who thinks it's all right to abuse a young girl, right, living in my society. I don't want you, whatever your colour, creed, religion, whatever, to think it's OK to carry a machete in the society I live in with my friends, my family and my kids. You don't deserve your liberty. That's it. We're going to make it a little bit lighter now because I've been doing this for 3.5 hours. You've got to face the Jeremy Kyle test for this morning. Russell Quirk, newly elected Reform Councillor. How many votes do you win by?
Oh, I mean, literally tens of.
Tens of, yeah. OK, 3 questions. The boss of this radio group, who we know very well, decided it would be a really good idea to launch Virgin Radio Christmas on Saturday. 54 days before the big day, I've got to listen to I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day. Where do you stand on Christmas music, Christmas decorations? You're a bit of a miserable sod, aren't you, to be fair?
Well, Jez, I believe that Christmas is a December thing. I mean, call me old-fashioned, but not an October, November, January thing. But funny enough, if my wife, Mrs. Q, who's in the kitchen as we speak and definitely won't show her face at the moment, unfortunately, because she's a bit shy.
I was waiting for you to say where she deserves to be, but you're not that brave, are you?
I didn't even cross my mind to say that, Jerry. That says more about you than it says about me. She has been listening to Christmas songs, and particularly now Virgin Christmas, for, the last few days. So she can't have enough Christmas songs for some odd reason. So, whenever I get in the car...
I think being married to you, she needs the joy she can get in her life. Second question, fireworks. Lots of people coming on and going, hold on a minute. Diwali started on the 20th of October. It's not firework night till Wednesday. I've got a baby, Chris and Jez. I've got a dog. Don't know if anybody's got a dog. This is wrong. And there was that... Have you seen the video in Birmingham with them attacking... I'm going to play this. Look at this. Look,
I know. I've seen it.
Throwing it at cars and stuff, man.
Yes, and actually my neighbours are Indian. They celebrated Diwali. Brilliant, lovely, thumbs up. But it was very, very noisy. My dogs didn't like it very much. I think there is a definite argument for fireworks only being confined to organised displays. But I'm not sure everybody agrees with that. It comes down to freedom, I suppose. But
we've had a few people going there explosives. I like the organised display. I mean, can you imagine nowadays how much the world's changed since we were kids? Penny for the guy, turned out to be a woman now, wouldn't he? The whole thing would be a nightmare.
Back in the day when, you were a child, back in the 50s, for instance, these fireworks were very, very, very much less audible, weren't they? Sparklers and a couple of kind of bangers. Now these things...
You can't say that.
...with a timer like rockets.
You can't say bangers nowadays, that's not right.
I'm not allowed to say that.
Say it. I mean, Catherine will, a toffee apple, and we went home in bed at 7 o'clock. Final question. Watch him go, ladies. I'm just going to throw this hook, and then I'm going to wind. Do you think the BBC should increase its licence fee? Russell Quirk, stand back. Oh, look, it's gone. It's gone.
Well, let's just have a bit of fun. I mean, what wonderful value the licence fee is, Jeremy. I would pay twice as much as I pay now, and I do still pay it because I watch it very occasionally just to see how bad it is, frankly. I would pay twice as much just for Mrs Brown's Boys on its own.
Right, now, we don't have a lie detector. Let's tell the truth. It is a con, isn't it, when you think that everybody else has to base it on quality and choice, distribution. I'm so against the BBC licence fee, apart from the fact I think they're biased and they're far from the truthful. But I think it's a joke. Come on.
I think in this day and age, to force people by way of a tax to watch bad output on television, it may as well be called North Korean TV, mightn't it? I think the concept back in the 50s as a public sector broadcaster, when it was really all about news and listen with mother, is fine. But now when it's trying to compete with the likes of Netflix...
Can't say that anymore. Watch with mother, can you? Because mother might be father, could be father with, you know...
Yeah, watch with parental figure.
Watch with parental figure. Jack and Nori, can't be Jack, can it? Could be Jill. I mean, the whole thing's gone wrong. Love having you on, Quirky. So good to have you on. And by the way, top job. Won that Reform Counselling seat and aiming for the stars. Are we going for Mayor of Essex then? What are we doing? How's that going?
Well, let's just say watch this space.
Good man. Great to have you on. 9:25. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Talk Breakfast. I only said drive. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Loads of texts. I love this. I'm going to do some after the break. Back in 3.
The police did a phenomenal job, which goes to show they have been preparing for these kinds of events, they've been rehearsing for these kinds of events, and they are getting better and better and better. Obviously, one of the most painful processes for the passengers was the driver pulling into the station before the response services could obviously attend to the situation. The biggest challenge, obviously, for any, whether it be a tube, whether it be an overland train, is you can't just stop in the middle of nowhere, because, again, the response could be sort of heeded by that.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:30. Alex Phillips is in for Julia Hartley-Brewer this morning from 10 o'clock. We'll speak to her ahead of the news. Ian Collins, the housewife's choice, certainly my wife's choice, who's still listening. She says it's brilliant, but she's only staying because she's looking forward to Ian's dulcet tones, l'après-midi, which is this afternoon. We'll speak to the former Bedfordshire Police and Crime Commissioner in a tick. Just to remind you of that breaking news, Anthony Williams, 32, from Peterborough, has just been charged. British Transport Police tell us with 10 counts of attempted murder, 1 count of actual bodily harm and 1 count of the possession of a bladed article following that knife attack in Cambridgeshire on that train on Saturday. It's in every newspaper today. Damon, what do you make of it all, my friend?
Morning, Jezza. Damon from Wigan. When my daughter says she's going out, my teenage daughter says she's going out with her friends, my heart sinks because of the state of Britain and how volatile it has become. Now, when my other daughter rings me and tells me that she's coming up from the south to come and visit me, and she has to come via the train, my heart is going to sink because of what's happened over the weekend. Do I seriously have to live like this in my own country in the 21st century? And when is somebody going to step up to the plate and defend the British people instead of leaving us to get on with it all by ourselves? Cheers, Jezza. Take care.
Couldn't agree more. Listen to this, by the way, peeps. Helen in Devon. This sort of text. 10 years ago, my 14-year-old daughter was harassed by a young man at Woking Station. He refused to leave her alone, Jez, asked her horrific questions, followed her across the station, told her she was rude for trying to ignore him. She took refuge in the cafe, bursting into tears when a man asked her if she was okay. Turned out he was a father to a similar-aged daughter. He bought her a cup of tea and a biscuit, confronted the scrote who said he was doing nothing and ran off. The saviour man told him, "She says you are, so back off." He saw her onto her train, spoke to the guard who put her in first class and made sure the other guy didn't get on. It still makes me cry thinking about it. That's the reality, isn't it? That's the reality. I said it earlier about, you know, my son would hate me talking about this, but last night on the train, Vic and I sat there and thought, Christ, he's 16, he's on a train to London in the dark, and some scrote's having a go. I mean, he probably can deal with it, but the caller's right. Damon's right. Where does that leave us? I'm delighted now, actually, to have Festus Akinbasoe, who's the former Bedfordshire Police and Crime Commissioner. Festus, a very good morning. Welcome to Morning Glory.
Good morning.
Appalling, dreadful, difficult to put into words, the impact of that heinous crime on Saturday. What's the answer in your mind, my friend? You were the former Bedfordshire Police and Crime Commissioner. Why aren't we stronger on knife crime?
I think in some cases, some police forces have, sadly, in my opinion, prioritized community relations over community safety. And I think we need to, yes, of course, the British model of policing is built on policing by consent, but I don't think that means that we have to get the permission of the public to police the public. The reality is we need to do what the number one priority of every parent. I'm a parent. I've got 4 kids. I want them just to be safe. And if push comes to shove, do I want the police to be my children's friends? No. Do I want the police to keep my children safe? absolutely yes.
I tell you why I could not agree with you more. Can I just ask you, are you a former commissioner because you've got those views? Because to me that sounds like complete common sense.
No. I am a former police and crime commissioner because that's an elected role. But I used to be, so I'm equivalent of a mayor with responsibility for policing. So Sadiq Khan is the police and crime commissioner for London.
Right, you said something. You said something that I want to pick up on. Two things. You said we shouldn't police by consent. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I always say I'm 60. We were scared of the old bill. If they grabbed you by the ear and took you home to your mum, you were going to get a right going over, right? I don't understand how the police have become almost apologetic to criminals. I don't understand, and never will, that you can nick £199 out of a shop and the police won't even turn up. And I don't lay this at this government specifically. I lay it back years. It's a bit like the military. It's an easy take, isn't it? Let's get less police off the streets. I always tell the story of a friend of mine whose dad was a Bobby on the beat even, that was good. And he gave up because he was so frustrated that he used to go out and garner relationships and commit, time to the community. So he'd find out, right? And now he sits in an office ticking boxes on a computer and it's not the same. And you said community relations. We should put nothing before the safety of the British public. And if that means upsetting people with stop and search or upsetting people by being, well, certainly, the left would say draconian, I don't give a toss. I want my kids to be able to go on a train. I want my missus to be able to go shopping. Sorry, that's how I see it. And I think millions of people would agree with that, Festus.
Well, during my time as a police and crime commissioner, under my watch, we actually doubled stop and search. And I was absolutely behind the chief constable in making sure that his police officers did their job. And whatever comes afterwards, we will deal with that. And from my side, they will get the political top cover. They knew that they were never going to get thrown under the bus by me as somebody who had responsibility for the oversight and scrutiny of policing. Only on one condition, though. They had to do the right thing, the proper way.
Yes.
I'm a black guy, that goes without saying, and I've been stopped and searched, 6 times, right? 3 times in London, once in Hertfordshire and once in Buckinghamshire.
How do you react to that?
Well, it's never a pleasant, look, I'll be honest with you, it's never a pleasant experience. Especially, so growing up in East London, in Canning Town, in Newham, we've got the Barking High Street, Barking Road, long road that runs from Canning Town all the way to the end of East End. And you get stopped on the high street, that's your high street, that's where you live. That's where you live. You get stopped there, in front of everybody. And, when you get stopped as a cheeky young lad, you ask the police officer, why did you stop me? And all you get told is, just to make sure you're not one of London's most wanted. Now, that is unacceptable, right? I had done nothing wrong, and of course, nothing was found on me because I was carrying nothing. Now I know that that was the wrong thing to do. So when that incident ends, the following day, you're back on that high street and everybody sees you. They remember you were the one that was stopped.
You talked about how you doubled stop and search in Bedfordshire as the former police and crime commissioner. I think it's fascinating what you just said, and I wanted to just talk about this because despite that job, you've admitted that you were stopped and searched 6 times. The big argument is it a racist tool? Let's do this show honestly, right? I've never been stopped and searched. Is that fundamentally wrong? Do you believe that it's a racist tool, or do you believe it's a necessary evil?
I think it's a blunt but necessary tool, because until a police officer has X-ray vision to detect what someone's got in their pocket, the only way you're going to find out if someone has got something is if they've got a weapon. If you stop them and have a conversation, and then politely ask them, look, it's going to last only a couple of minutes, and it just rule you out as the person that we're looking for, not to treat you as a criminal. But what we did do in Bedfordshire, which I think should be done more broadly, is to say, look, we're not going to tell you not to do your job as a police officer, but if you're getting things wrong over and over and over again, we need to just have a conversation rather than we're going to sack you.
Sorry, can I ask something that's my age? My brain goes slightly different.
You're still very young. You were not in the 50s, by the way.
I'm 60 years of age.
Oh, okay. You don't look it at all.
Which party did you stand for? Because you speak more bloody common sense than I think I've ever heard from a police... Are you Conservative?
Yes, I was Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner, yes.
No wonder you lost your job. But the truth of the matter is, mate, you are absolutely spot on. And I think that we've become almost paralysed by this fear of... I mean, I was talking about, on the show the other day, about the grooming gangs inquiry, Festus, right? And a police superintendent stood up in Rotherham and said, you know, we probably were slow in terms of doing something about this, and it took 8 years because we didn't want to stir up racial disharmony.
Community tensions.
And I'm thinking to myself, sorry, 8-year-old kids being abused, I don't give a toss if I upset people. And you're saying exactly the same about stop and search. And I think it's a really, really salient point. Are you going to stand again?
Well, we'll see what the future holds.
Listen, I'd please come back onto this show because I've been blown away by how straight down the line you are. Just one final question. Do you like it? You've got a sense of humour. We're moving away from that, right? The boss of this radio group decided to launch a radio show, station on Saturday called Virgin Radio Christmas, which I think is ludicrous. Now, you're a father. Surely Christmas songs on the 1st of November is far too early, Festus.
Christmas starts on the 25th of December, mate. You know, come on. You know, to be doing that in November, that is... Listen, we've been seeing Christmas stuff in supermarkets. I think I first saw one in September, early October. That's far too early. Far too early. You know, things are difficult out there for parents. You know, the supermarkets should give us a break. And especially your boss. He's making life, you know, very, very difficult.
There you got it, Morris. Now you know the place. Festus, you better come back soon. We love you. Thank you so much indeed. Festus Akinbasoe, a man who used to be the Police and Crime Commissioner of Bedfordshire, didn't win the last election. He says stop and search is an important tool. He's been stopped and searched. He said, I'm a black guy, it's not right, but I understand it deals with the problem. Very intelligent human being. Good morning, JK. Policing in the UK has become an office job, and it started about 10 years ago. Strictly skeleton staff overnight. Simon in Skelmersdale. Blimey. Morning, Jez. 20 years ago, Singapore banned chewing gum in order to clean up the street. We can't even enforce current laws to prevent knife crime. Maybe if the police actually got back policing, they'd feel more like police instead of monitoring free speech and non-hate crimes. Bring back 100% stop and search. It wouldn't bother me. I'm a citizen who doesn't carry drugs. I don't carry knives. I don't carry stolen goods. You can search me as often as you want. Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 9:45. Alex Phillips is in for Julia Hartley-Brewer. Morning, Jezzery. Reeves' rental licence. Oh, this is Rachel Thieves. When they checked their bank details to ensure rent was being paid, did they look to see if 900 quid had been removed from their account in respect of the cost of the licence fee? No! Of course she didn't. She was too busy screwing up the economy. No idea. Jez, last Friday I paid 174 quid for my TV licence. I don't even watch the BBC. I mainly watch catch-up TV or use the TV for my games console. It's disgusting, Jezza. I always said I won't buy one next year, but I don't want to get into trouble, so I probably will. That's my whole reason. It should be cancelled. Nicola. Jez, a police car was sat watching the fireworks on the roundabout in Slough, which is a brave thing to do, isn't it, a roundabout in Slough. Why would they not stop it, says Nikki. Tracy's in Staffordshire. Good morning, Jez. Not sure why we sell explosive to the general public and believe that fireworks should be public displays only. Interesting. Tracy. Another Tracy. If they got rid of the BBC licence fee, then the pensioners would have more money for heating. They're taking it off them to give them 200 quid back. Miss Summers. Tracy, not Anne. Darren in Cumbria. Morning, Jez. The UK government has a duty to protect its citizens. This duty is grounded in its constitutional principles, human rights law, don't get me on that, common law and international obligations. My favourite, this is Jamie, the taxi driver. Jez, can we just start Christmas on the 18th of December, have it for 10 days, where everywhere shuts down on the 24th till the 27th. If you haven't bought things prior to this, you'll have to buy it on the 28th. As for fireworks, only staged fireworks. They ban them for public sale, and I think you should be the Prime Minister. And you, Jamie, need some therapy. 9:45, 0344 499 1000. There's a great story out and about that I'm desperate to share. A very good morning with Ria Freeman, author, PR and social media. God, you've got more titles than, well, the ex-Prince Andrew. How are you? Good morning.
I'm really good, thank you.
Lovely to have you on. Now, Ricky Gervais, who I sort of idolise. I only idolise Ricky Gervais because he says, and I quote, that a few years ago he got made redundant and he worked out he got 6 months of his redundancy money to try and make it, and he's become just the most... He doesn't give a damn. He doesn't care if he gets cancelled. He speaks from the heart. He shoots from the hip. And actually he says things that the rest of us would give our arms to be able to speak. He's created this vodka. It's brilliant, this story, called Dutch Barn Vodka. And he's run a series of adverts. And although, I mean, there's several. And TfL in London, Transport for London, take great exception. One, I think, said, you know, come and have a drink, even if you're an alcoholic. That went down like a lead balloon. Then he did another one where he went, these are the dangers of drinking. They said, that's no good. He also said, which is quite relevant, welcome to London. Don't forget your stab vest. This is him, I mean, going nuts on social media. I've had to bleep. You wouldn't believe the bleeps. Have a watch.
Right. I am sick and tired of the powers that be banning my billboards and adverts for Dutch Barn. Sometimes there's just nothing wrong with them, right? One that was meant for the tube station just had me having a drink and it just said, one day you'll be underground for good. That was it. They went, no, can't have that, because it might make people think, oh, because life's short, we should drink to excess. Who's thinking that? Oh my God. Cowardly Do you think it's my attitude? Oh, but you can't win because, right, you're not allowed to say alcohol's good for you or it does this or it makes you feel confident or it makes you feel attractive, which is fine.
We have gone completely mad, haven't we, Ria Freeman?
We have. I mean, I have to say, I love Ricky Gervais as well. And I think that he is very refreshing. He does just say what he thinks. And whether that offends people or not, he doesn't really care. I have to say, though, the whole thing he's done on social media, his video, talk about a good PR drive to raise awareness of his product. I mean, it's been huge.
Did you hear what he said? We cut that off, actually, because we haven't got time. But at the end of that post, he went, right, sod them, I'm not doing it like that. Just buy Dutch Barn, right, online, and we also save donkeys in Spain. I mean, it's just an absolute... Do you think, though, from a... I mean, your experience as a PR and social media expert, I mean, yeah, that's very clever, and knowing what he's like, you know, that there's probably a reason behind it. But there is a bigger issue, isn't there? Issue's the wrong word. we live in a society now, it seems, where we try to protect people the whole time, and I'm not sure everybody needs or even wants to be protected. I think a bit of honesty and a bit of, I don't know, not outrage, but just an opinion's okay, isn't it?
I would like to think so. I think there are obviously some opinions that are, you know, inciting proper hate and things like that I don't think have got a place on social media. But I think when it's opinions that are a bit of fun, people will be offended, but God, people are offended if you put the wrong eyeshadow on. So I think that people being offended about something that is a bit kind of out there, that's fair enough. I mean,
do you think being offended has become a bit of a fashion thing? I mean, honestly, I'm offended. Somebody said to me the other day that they were a mate of mine's boss in a company, sales company, and this person had not performed for 6 months, and he called them in and said, look, you know, things have got to improve, and they went, oh, right, well, that's made me feel very anxious, and they've been signed off for 3 weeks. No, you're crap at your job, sorry. I mean, can we get this straight? What happened in the old days? I mean, honestly, call me old-fashioned, please.
No, I think we have got quite precious. And I think that, you know, when you have trigger warnings and people, like that word triggered comes up a whole lot. And I just think going back in time, we're just like, oh, that's not for us, or oh, that's a bit upsetting. But if someone had called you in to say you're rubbish at your job, your first reaction would probably be, oh, God, that's not good. What can I do to get better?
Absolutely.
Not, I'm terribly offended.
Right, as a PR and social media expert, 2 questions, very important. Thank you for the Ricky Gervais bit. Virgin Radio Christmas was launched on Saturday by the boss, did any. The thought of listening to Christmas songs for 54 days is too much. Do you like it that early or not?
No, I don't. I'm still getting over half-term and Halloween, if I'm brutally honest. I've got 2 children, so I need a lot more time before we get into the excitement of Christmas.
Talking of which, young kids, my youngest is 2, my oldest is 35. As somebody once said, you should have been on your own show. Should fireworks be restricted? Fireworks night is Wednesday. Diwali was October the 20th. I can't get my kid to sleep for all the noise. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not a big firework fan. I've got animals, so I don't love the fact that I think as well, if it was just the 5th of November and you knew that was when it was happening, that would be one thing. But I've heard loads, you know, even before this weekend, and it will sort of carry on until Christmas, and then they blow up a bit more in New Year. So I'm not a big fan, I have to be honest.
I'm not sure whether I should let fireworks off to drown out the sound of Virgin Radio Christmas. I'm not sure. Listen, great to have you on. Ria Freeman, author, PR and social media expert, talking about Ricky Gervais. Go online and find that. He is one funny man. 9 minutes to... Is it 9 minutes to 10 o'clock already? No breakfast. Back in a minute. Don't...
In order for it to hit the Home Office definition of a terrorist offence, there must be a motivation to spread terror. And that motivation must be driven by a particular ideology. And clearly what the police have discovered in the last 14, 15 hours is that that does not exist. Now, of course, they will still continue to try and establish why the people that committed this attack did it.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. So Alex Phillips on the way, in for Julia Hartley-Brewer, Ian Collins from 1 and Peter Cardwell-Andre from 4. He'd kill me if he didn't let me do that. The mass train stabbings has been the major topic of conversation. Let's do a final voice note. Mike, on the train attack, go.
Morning, guys. Great show. I'm a veteran. I will say it now. Last week, I jumped in between 7 guys, one of them carrying a knife. It was an isolated incident, but it goes on more and more and more in this country. Now, I'm not living in fear. I'm not living in fear. I'm living in anger. I'm living in anger with the DEI, the way this country has gone down over the past 30 years. I've been in some serious situations in war. I tell you what would happen, would be good, if we slowed down or found a way to stop with social media showing violence from all over the world, because it is affecting and indoctrinating these people. We need to take a stand. This country needs to make some hard decisions.
Listen, also, that breaking news this hour, Anthony Williams, 32, from Peterborough, has been charged with 10 counts of attempted murder, 1 count of actual bodily harm and 1 count of the possession of a bladed article after that attack in Cambridgeshire on Saturday. British Transport Police telling that in the last hour. Earlier, we spoke to Paul Bristow on the show. He's the Mayor of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. Have a listen.
The train was passing through Cambridgeshire. It wasn't scheduled to stop at Huntingdon. It only did so because of the fast-thinking driver who managed to divert the train there. A Peterborough man, that driver, someone who I know, a hero like the train guard, is now fighting for his life. But it did stop in Peterborough, and it does look like that the perpetrator was a Peterborough, or the suspect is a Peterborough man as well. But there'll be lots of worried people. I understand that. Peterborough and Cambridgeshire is commuter territory, and I understand people will be concerned today.
Just one thing that we're throwing out there. Would you not call it a terrorist attack, or do you think that's dangerous?
Well, it's my understanding there's a very specific definition of a terrorist attack. I think it's to do with political and ideological...
But it's not. It's endangering a person's life other than that of a person committing the action or creating a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public. I thought the same as you, but we got out that definition. So I'm not trying to wake it up, but a lot of people are saying, you know, they don't believe perhaps what the government are saying after the Southport things, and we want to try and do this in the right, dispassionate way. But, I mean, it's just... That was earlier... Paul Bristow, Mayor of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. I was going to play the whole thing, but she's very demanding. She's in for Julia Hartley-Brewer. We say good morning to a consummate professional, Alex Phillips. I saw you on Thursday as well. I went to try and find you after my bit, and you'd gone.
Oh, I was making myself a cup of tea.
No,
did you want one?
Not here, Thursday night.
Oh, no. I went to bed early because I had to be up early to present.
Oh, right, OK.
See, so I didn't sort of down myself in cheap wine and chewy chicken.
I did. You're obviously going to talk about this situation, the mass train stabbings. Absolutely horrific. Lots of people talking about knife crime today, talking about how we should be stronger, the sentences should be sentences that you serve, and a lot of fear, Alex, a lot of fear.
Right, so this is the thing. I moved to the Cotswolds because I felt unsafe in London every day. There was 3 attempts to nick my phone. I was followed home by some madman chuntering away in my ear in some sort of foreign tongue. You know, I just got fed up in London with looking over my shoulder, so I've moved out